What's up, guys? Or should I say, alright, guys? Welcome to Press X Podcast. Thank you guys for being here, especially those of you who show up early and like to hang out in the chat for a little while. I think today's show, as usual, is going to be pretty good. We have some really solid topics to go over and discuss. It's actually a pretty packed show. Seems like there's just been so much to talk about week over week. So first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to Damocles X. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your username correctly, but you are a new member. Thank you so much for deciding to join the channel and become a member and support me directly, going above and beyond. Thank you so much for that. Look forward to your exclusive perks. So thank you, buddy. And so as you can see, we have the members on screen right now. Thank all of you guys. I want to thank all of you guys for continuing to support me. We also have another member right off the bat here, Scott Huey. Thank you so much, buddy, for going above and beyond. Your names will obviously be added to this list. So next week you can look forward to that. But thank you so much for that. Look forward to your exclusive member perks. And I just want to thank everybody for showing up. As I said, we do have a pretty packed show. There are a lot of really good topics to go over and talk about here. A lot of PlayStation 5 related stuff, but also some PlayStation 4 related stuff. So let me give you a brief rundown over what we're going to be talking about over the course of this podcast. And before I do that, we already have over 500 people watching, which is pretty incredible. So if you could do me a big favor, hit that like button to show your support and help the podcast out. Really means a lot to me. So I see somebody saying, MBG, it doesn't show the join button for me. I've seen some people have that issue. The best workaround I could try to find, I don't know if it's available in every single country to be able to become a member, but I do have a link in the description of this podcast as well as all of my other videos that if you click on it should bring you to the page directly. So hopefully that helps you out. And thank you for that donation, MH. Really appreciate that. But the topics that we have to discuss today, the first thing we're going to be going over and talking about, and we'll probably continue to talk about this at least until Sony actually comes out and officially gives us a new date, is the PlayStation 5 reveal event. It's something we've been talking about pretty much all year, and we were supposed to have seen this already, but obviously because of all the things that are going on in the world right now, Sony decided it would be best to kind of postpone it. So we're just going to talk about when exactly we think Sony's actually going to come out here and announce a new date. Are they going to announce a new date next week? Are they going to host the event in the third week of June, even though that's the same time The Last of Us Part 2 is releasing? And I just want to have a general discussion surrounding that. But more interestingly, the second topic, in my opinion, it's more interesting anyway, is we're talking about not only what the Epic Games head of engineering had to say about the PlayStation 5 and how they literally had to rewrite code when it comes to Unreal Engine 5 because of the PS5. And when I say had to rewrite it, I don't mean to make it sound like they were forced to. They wanted to. That's how much they like the PlayStation 5. But we also have Linus Tech Tips actually coming out and basically apologizing. I mean, the title of the video was pretty extreme. The title was, I've disappointed and embarrassed myself, and I think it's like number 7 on trending right now on YouTube, which is absolutely insane, where he essentially apologized directly to Tim Sweeney because he felt as though he was really off the mark when it comes to the things he's been saying about, you know, just these the PS5 and the comments that Tim Sweeney was making. He just basically felt that he was completely off the mark, and he just came out and basically confirmed that, yeah, not only was he completely wrong, and you could tell there was a lot of shame in his voice, and it was pretty intense, but he was also confirming that what Sony is doing with the PS5 is the real deal. If I could speak, it is the real deal here, and Sony is not messing around. So we also have another channel member, LSSJT. Thank you so much, buddy, for taking the time to go above and beyond and support me directly here. Look forward to your exclusive perks. Really appreciate all of my members. I mean, I appreciate everybody who takes time to interact with my channel, but especially those who go above and beyond. So look forward to those perks. Thank you so much, buddy. But that's the second topic. The third topic we're going over is what we talked about recently, this whole Bloodborne PlayStation 5/PC remaster. What's going on with that? I have a lot more to say about it because, honestly, when I made my video talking about it, I was extremely excited and hyped up about it. But what I've realized is that it seems not everybody actually feels that way. There's a lot of people who are not actually hyped at all about this. In fact, there's a lot of people who seem to, I don't want to say be against it, but they're nervous about it, I guess is the best way to put it. So we're going to talk about that. It's going to make for some very interesting conversation. Let me look at what other topics we have. Jonathan Day, thank you for that donation. You're saying, who else has $1? Well, thank you, buddy. I really do appreciate that donation. But the fourth topic, and this one I think is going to be pretty interesting, but I don't know how much time I'm going to spend talking about it because we always have to worry about spoilers and stuff like that. And when we get to topic number 4, we're going to be talking about The Last of Us 2, so if you don't want anything potentially spoiled, I would avoid the chat at that point in time. But we're talking about how The Last of Us Part 2, based off of all of the data we have right now and what people are saying, it looks like it might be on track to actually break all of PlayStation's records when it comes to sales and just how impactful it's going to be sales-wise for Sony, which is very interesting and also honestly not that surprising, maybe a little bit surprising given all of the controversy surrounding it. But we're also talking about some things that Neil Druckmann recently had to say about The Last of Us Part 2 in a recent interview he gave to Eurogamer, where he talks about the leaks and how he's basically saying that the ending isn't actually out there. So, nobody should actually know the ending unless you reviewed the game or you're currently reviewing it. He's saying that there's a lot of stuff that's just false. And, he could just be saying this, obviously, to try to convince people to go buy it. But I do find what he's saying pretty interesting. So we're going to talk about that as well. And finally, the last major topic we're going to be going over is Phil Spencer recently coming out and talking about next generation and how, in his opinion, it is really difficult to actually show next generation, to actually show that leap forward, which I have some thoughts on. There's some things I want to say about that for sure because I feel like he's maybe making a little bit of an excuse, but there is also certainly some truth to what he's saying as well. So these are all the things we're going to be going over, and of course, at the very end of the podcast, we will be, going over just some general gaming news, and we will be doing a Q&A with the chat here. So we have Jiminator J. You're saying keep up the great work and content. Part 2 is so close. Well, thank you for that, buddy. I will do my best to keep up everything we've been doing here on the channel. I really enjoy making daily content, and you guys seem to be responding really well to it. You're, really showing a lot of support, so thank you for that. And yes, part 2 is very close, and I can't lie to you guys, as we get closer to it, my hype is starting to certainly increase, and maybe I'm falling for the PR, I don't know, but when I hear Neil Druckmann coming out and saying that, and not just Neil Druckmann, but people who were reviewing the game as well, they're all saying that the leaks certainly do not tell the full story, and there's a lot more to it, and a lot of them just aren't actually true. It does get me excited. So we also have LSSJT. You're saying, MEG, I thought a thought, but the thought I thought wasn't the thought I thought. Looking forward to the member perks. All right, LSSJT, I don't know what to make of that. It sounds like you might be a little bit confused, but either way, I do appreciate you becoming a member, and I do appreciate your super chat, so thanks for that, buddy. But yeah, just to really quick before we move on to the first topic, I know that this is a really long-winded intro, and I do apologize, but it's an easy way to let people kind of funnel in. But I want to let all the members know that towards the end of this month, you can look forward to the next episode of MBG and Friends. Although I don't know if I'm going to have multiple friends on this podcast. It could just be me and Brown Sugar once again. But either way, we're going to be talking about The Last of Us Part 2. And as I told you last week, we're going to break it up into 2 separate parts. The first part is going to be us basically just giving our initial thoughts and impressions. The second part will actually be our final thoughts on the game once we complete it. I also do need to let you know, you might hear a motorcycle outside. That's actually my neighbor, so I apologize if that comes through the mic really loudly. There's just simply nothing I can do about it. So, yeah, may as well just wait for that to go. Okay, so we're gonna bring up some gameplay here. Let me move this out of the way. And so, yeah, we have Chris B. You're saying Phil is probably worried that it's hard to show a 2 T-flop difference between the PS5 and Xbox Series X, and he is probably right. That's actually a good one, Chris. I didn't think of that. That could very well be something he has in the back of his mind. There's no doubt about that. And so we'll discuss that when we get to it. It could be, what you're saying could be very true, though. And we also have Tyson Webb 509. You're saying just wanted to drop a few bucks your way. Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate that. I certainly appreciate everybody who is opting to become a member. Those of you who donate super chats, especially at a time like this, really means a lot. But do appreciate everybody. So again, hit that like button. But we are going to move on to the first topic here. And so, the PlayStation 5 event was obviously delayed, and fans are wondering when they can expect it to happen now. I said that I thought, at the very latest, Sony would push it back to early July, but many fans seem to disagree with this and believe that there is no way Sony would wait that long. Many fans seem to believe that Sony will have it either the second or third week of June, but no later. There's also the big fear that things will start to leak out, and there's no doubt that Sony wants to get the show on the road, as fans are very excited. We are also hearing from different people across the industry that this showcase really is going to be big, and Sony has a lot to show. Many seem to believe that this is the showcase/event that will renew people's excitement for next gen. So yeah, we have 1933-8 Luke. You're saying you've been killing it with the PS5 news. Thank you so much for putting out content and keeping us up to date. Well, no problem, buddy. I really do appreciate that you appreciate it. I love making this content, and not only am I just excited myself to talk about it, but it's really nice to see that I have a audience here that is just as excited as I am, seemingly. And I know that some people are getting a little bit tired of all the rumors and speculation, and I understand that completely. And that's why we're having this conversation now, trying to figure out when Sony's going to do this, because it's really hard to tell. Now, I did say that, in my opinion, the absolute longest we would have to wait. I'm not saying this is what I'm anticipating exactly. I'm simply saying that I think it's a possibility that if things, continue to be as intense as they have been, for the past week and a half, I mean, we really don't know. Obviously, Sony doesn't know either. I think if they continue to be as intense as they have been, there is maybe a possibility that Sony may actually put off this event until maybe the first week of July. I don't think it would go any later than that, but that's not really what I'm anticipating. And the reason why I'm backing that up is because, as I said, we know that Sony has a lot to show. We also know that they have partners that are going to be showing stuff alongside what they have to show from their first-party and second-party studios. And because of that, you have to imagine that they are all very fearful right now that somebody's going to leak something major out, especially if Sony was planning on actually showing off the console itself. If that's something that they were planning, then right now they are probably trembling in fear, thinking it's just going to be any day now that it leaks. If they weren't planning on showing it off, maybe they feel like they have a little bit more leeway. But either way, something I can tell you for sure is that the longer they go without showing this, and I know I'm repeating what I said in a video, but it's worth repeating because I think it's true. The longer they go without announcing a new date, the more likely big leaks are going to be. I mean, we're hearing about this Bloodborne leak, which we're going to talk about later on, and that's just potentially the first of many things that may leak out. We're actually hearing about Gran Turismo as well. And so, yeah, we have Daniel F. You're saying there is a Karen named Catherine Tetril who's trying to get Cyberpunk 2077 banned. Google her. She is in a high position and talking to the Prime Minister. That's kind of weird, honestly. I didn't hear anything about that. I'll try to keep that in the back of my mind, so when I'm finished this podcast, I'll have to look into that. But I really hope that doesn't happen. I don't know why Cyberpunk 2077 would have to be banned. It's a video game, and it's artists creating a vision, and if you don't like it or you don't agree with it, just don't support it. I hate to see when stuff like that happens because it just seems like there are these individuals who have positions of power who are going to go so far out of their way to try to ruin something for a lot of people who are just very excited for something that it's like, I don't even know what to make of that, but that is extremely disappointing to hear. But getting back to the topic, thank you for the super chat, by the way. But getting back to the topic at hand here, it seems likely that Sony is going to talk about this event or announce a new event date at some point next week. And so my thoughts on it were that if Sony were to announce a new event date next week, right, if that's something they were planning on doing or that's when they actually do it, then you have to imagine it would probably be the following week, right? Like, would they announce it? Would they announce a new date if the new date is going to be about 2 weeks away? Sure, they could, but I just don't think it's likely considering how eager people are. But if they were to announce it next week, right, this upcoming week, I should say, if they were to announce it sometime this week and it's scheduled for, say, the 3rd week of June, well, that's when The Last of Us Part 2 comes out. And then my question then becomes, how much breathing room are they going to, do they care about having between The Last of Us Part 2 releasing and giving the PlayStation 5 its time to shine, right? And without, they don't want The Last of Us potentially overshadowing the PS5 event, and they definitely don't want the PS5 event overshadowing the launch of The Last of Us. But that's not, it's hard for me to gauge exactly how much breathing room Sony wants to allow them to have. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they just think both of these things can kind of stand on their own. Jonathan Day, you're saying Cyberpunk is intense. I do agree. Everything I've seen of Cyberpunk so far, it does look like a very intense game, but it's a game I'm very excited for, and I think, it's going to be potentially maybe the best game we get all generation. I mean, that's obviously subjective, but what I can say is that we are getting a lot of really awesome games before the end of this year, which is obviously awesome, and we're all very excited for that. But I guess I will ask these questions to my chat. When do you think the new event will be? Do you think there's any chance it could get pushed out of June? Like, do you actually think it might end up being sometime in July? And do you think more announcements/reveals will end up leaking out before Sony actually gets to set a new date? I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about this, because I do firmly believe that, the one thing Sony really doesn't want to happen, like the one thing that in my opinion could be worse than them potentially overshadowing the launch of The Last of Us Part 2 by having this PS5 event, say, the 3rd week of June. The only thing that could be worse than that is a bunch of stuff starting to leak out. We have been talking a lot here on the channel about all of these different hints and rumors and leaks and all these things that are circulating about Silent Hill, the next Horizon game, stuff like that. Gran Turismo seemingly being confirmed by somebody who makes a peripheral, right? And I see you guys are kind of blowing up the chat here. A lot of you guys are still saying June. I see some people are saying August. I don't think they would wait that long. But most of you seem to be saying June. A few people are saying July. MH, you're saying no, I wasn't a console. If it has a thick look, I'm cool with that. I have to agree, MH. I don't care what the PlayStation 5 ends up looking like. I just hope it does look very different from the Xbox Series X. Not that I have a problem with the Xbox Series X, but I just think that, it would help the PS5 out. It'd help it stand out, obviously, and also simultaneously allow the Xbox Series X to stand out. I mean, it's one of these situations where Microsoft has clearly done something different with their next-gen console and the way it looks. We're going to have to see how much different the PS5 is going to end up looking, but I don't care if it's a thick console. But, when it comes to this event, guys, I know that there's a lot of people who are getting very impatient. And it's unfortunate that the year Sony and Microsoft are getting ready to reveal their new consoles and talk about them and reveal their new games. It's unfortunate that it happens to be the same year that a lot of really terrible and kind of crazy things are happening globally that no one can really control. And, it's just an unfortunate situation all around. But what I will tell you, and, what does make me feel a little bit better, is that, regardless of what's happening in the world, Sony and Microsoft, as long as they don't delay these consoles, which everything they've said so far says that they're absolutely not going to delay these consoles, the good news is they will be revealing this stuff soon. They have no choice. Regardless, it's going to get to a point where regardless of what's going on in the world, it's something that they have to do. And we have OMC Mumbles. You're saying, I hope the Xbox does good. It's good to have good competition. With good competition, the games will win every time. What do you think, MBG? Well, I actually agree 100%. This is actually something I've been advocating for quite some time here on the channel, where, I understand that I was really hard on Xbox back in 2019, and part of that was probably just because I was frustrated, and I felt like I was waiting for a long time for something big to happen on the platform, and it just never happened. And then I saw all of the awesome games that PlayStation had released this generation, and I experienced them, and I was like, wow. But the truth is, I do want Sony and Microsoft to have more intense competition this time around. I mean, I know that sometimes it's easy to get riled up in the whole console war thing and be like, look, we love PlayStation, we love what Sony's doing, and so we just want to see them crush the competition. But the truth is, when there is intense competition, if there's good competition between Sony and Microsoft, we will ultimately get better products in the end. And for us, that usually means better games. It also means better services, stuff like that. And so at this point, the number one thing I hope to see from Microsoft, and we'll touch upon this later on in the podcast when we get to the Xbox-related topic, but, I just want to see better games. I want to see games that genuinely get me more excited than what I've been seeing the past couple of years. And that's, my great hope for Xbox, honestly. But to kind of finish off the first topic here, because I'm eager to move on to the second topic. If I had to give my best guess as to when exactly Sony is going to announce a new date, I think we're going to get the announcement this week. I think it, might not be till Friday, but I think we will get the announcement, and I think it will go down the third week of June. And I think at this point, Sony's just not going to care about The Last of Us Part 2 or the PS5 getting in each other's way. I think that they acknowledge that both of these products are two separate products. They're two separate things. And while they may be geared towards pretty much the same audience, people who are tuning in to hear about how well The Last of Us is selling or reviewing, that doesn't mean they're not going to tune in to see the PlayStation 5 reveal. If anything, it just means they're going to be even more excited about everything happening at one time. At least that's my thought on it. So if I had to guess, I'm going to say we're going to see something the third week of June. It could end up being the last week of June as well, but I do think at this point, if I had to really put my money on it, I'm going to say it's going to happen in June, and it won't actually be pushed back to July. We have we have Scott Huey here first. You're saying, I feel as though PlayStation and Xbox is not going head-to-head any longer. Phil did say they are going for Amazon and Google. Yeah, that's an unfortunate thing. We really don't know. I think Phil just says that to kind of justify how, I guess you could say, the position they're in when it comes to market share, and to kind of justify how Xbox seemingly has not been able to compete at the same level that Sony, the standard that Sony is setting or has set this generation. But I just don't believe that. I don't understand how Phil could say that after seeing how massive of a flop Google Stadia was, right? It just doesn't make any sense. I do think that they are still in competition. I think that Phil just likes to be very passive-aggressive. We also have Banjo Productions. You're saying, hey dude, have you heard of the Twisted Metal Black leak on the PS5 subreddit? It might be fan-made though. I have not heard of that, but it would be interesting to see the return of Twisted Metal. I'm going to be real with you right now. I wouldn't put too much stock into it because at this point in time, there's a lot of people making up a lot of stuff. I've been trying my best to, lately, anytime I talk about any rumors or any leaks, I've been trying my best to only talk about the ones that seem like they have the most amount of credibility. It's been a really long time since we've talked about any 4chan posts or Reddit posts or, reset error posts of people just saying stuff and just basically saying, trust me, bro. I've been trying my best to kind of source individuals who seem to have something. Now, we'll actually touch on this a little bit more when we talk about the Blood-Borne Leak, because there's some more interesting information surrounding it that I didn't really touch on in my video that we're going to talk about, but it kind of falls in line with not necessarily Twisted Black, but, can we believe random people, right? So, but I have not heard of that. I would not anticipate a Twisted Metal return. However, who knows? It could be a big surprise. We also have 19338 Luke, you're saying if Sony waits till July, most of the games will leak out by then. It's been 4 days, and a lot of rumors about games have already came out. So I think June 16th is the date of the reveal. I could see that. You are definitely correct about, the idea of things leaking out, just like we talked about a little bit earlier in this podcast. The longer Sony waits, the higher the probability is that something significant will leak out. Is this Blood-Borne leak? There's a lot of people who don't believe it. Is that significant? I think so. I'd say it's somewhat significant. Not the most significant, but it seems like it's starting small, and as we continue to go on, it will get even bigger. You're saying it's going to be June 16th. So we know that the review embargo for The Last of Us is lifting on the 12th, and we know that the game is launching on the 19th. So could Sony potentially try to put the PlayStation 5 reveal in between those two things? Yeah, I think we could. You give The Last of Us review embargo a couple days to kind of marinate, I guess, in gamers' minds and let them celebrate that, because it's probably going to review really well. And then, after those few days, we'll have the PS5 event, and then right after the PS5 event, launch The Last of Us 2. But my great fear about that is that if Sony were to have this event before The Last of Us 2 launches, will people stop talking about the PS5 at a time when they really should be talking about it in favor of The Last of Us 2? Think about somebody like myself. At that point in time, what do I talk about? You know what I mean? So, Scott Huey, you're saying we are not even going to discuss Google Stadia. LOL. Yeah, I can't argue with that one, man. There's really no reason to talk about it. There's nothing left to say. Google Stadia is, I don't want to say it's a joke, but that's how most people see it. So, Attic A, you're saying, hey, MBG, with all the hype surrounding the PlayStation 5, do you think Sony could get away with showing us next-gen games but not showing the console until launch? Well, I will say this first and foremost. There's no way they could get away with not showing the console till launch. So you want to get that out of your mind immediately. They will show the console before launch. But is there a chance that they could end up showing games and then maybe, I don't know, maybe just kind of hold off on showing the console? I think that's a possibility. I don't want to say it's a likely possibility, but I think it's 50-50. But you have to understand, the longer Sony goes without actually showing the console, the higher the chances it'll actually leak. And we also have Chris B. You're saying, I hope Microsoft isn't going to make games like the latest Amazon Game Studio flop. I'm going to be completely honest with you, Chris, right now. I didn't even know that Amazon put out a game, and I don't even know what the game is. You're saying it flopped, and so, yeah, that's the thing, man. I mean, Google and Amazon, they're trying to break into this market, but I think they're learning the hard way that it's not easy. Like, this is not a market you can just basically throw your money around in and say, I'm going to take over now. That's not how it works. Sony has proven with their competition with Microsoft that it takes a lot more than that, and I think Microsoft has certainly been humbled. So has Sony as well. They've both been humbled over the years, but even Microsoft more recently being humbled with the Xbox One reveal and stuff like that. It just goes to show that it doesn't matter how powerful your company is, how big your company is, or how much money your company has. When it comes to the gaming industry, it takes a lot more than that. So, yeah, but thank you for that. And we also have MH, you're saying Stadia might work when 5G rolls out. Still have to change the price model, though. Yeah, that's the thing with these cloud gaming services. I mean, the big thing is internet connection, but in my opinion, when it comes to the cloud gaming services, there's a lot more pushback that goes beyond just the internet connection thing, right? I think that there's a lot of pushback against the idea of ownership. Gamers, they like to feel a sense of ownership, at least most of them. Some don't care so much. But I don't know, it just seems like in order for cloud gaming to really become the norm, or even potentially one day take over, it's going to take a lot of time. It's certainly not going to happen anytime soon, and it's not going to happen overnight. And if it is something that does ever happen, it's going to happen in the distant future, potentially 15, 20 years from now. I know that may sound extreme to some people, but I'm telling you, cloud gaming has a long way to go, and Google Stadia has clearly proven that. But you're right, 5G, for those who are okay with using it, could potentially be, a big difference maker. So But that's pretty much the first topic. You know, we went over talking about the reveal date. Appreciate you guys chiming in and giving your thoughts on that. We are going to move on to the second topic now, and we have over 1,500 people watching, which is awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here with me and listening to what I have to say. If you could do me a big favor, be sure to hit the like button. Let's see if we can get to 500 likes and potentially even get to 1,000 likes before this podcast ends. Likes really help out more than you know. So thank you guys so much for that. But we are moving on to the second topic here, and this one is going to be particularly interesting. Recently, we had the Vice President of Engineering over at Epic Games reveal that they were so impressed with the PS5 hardware and what Sony has achieved with the SSD and I/O throughput that they actually went back and rewrote code for Unreal Engine 5. I did make a video highlighting this, but it seems there are some people who don't seem to understand how big of a deal this really is. We also had a very popular YouTuber, Linus Tech, he has over 11 million subscribers, actually make a video issuing an apology to Epic Games Tim Sweeney because he called out Tim's claim that the PS5's SSD is, quote, best in class, unquote, and said that this simply wasn't true. Linus goes on to essentially confirm everything we've already been talking about when it comes to how big of a deal this SSD is, but more specifically, the I/O throughput is inside of the PS5 and how it will actually be a literal game changer in many ways, specifically talking about PS5 exclusives. The title of his video is, quote, I've disappointed and embarrassed myself, unquote, so you know it's pretty serious. And the reason why I'm highlighting the title of that video, and if you were to go watch it, is because there's people who think that Sony is somehow actually paying Linus Tech Tips to make this video and say these things, which is absolutely ridiculous to think, because there's no way somebody like as big as Linus Tech Tips would ever make a video like that with that type of sincerity and with a title like that if they weren't actually being genuine. And I watched the video myself, and it was very clear to me that it was a very genuine video. So we're going to talk about this, but I do want to thank MC9015 becoming a member. Thank you so much for opting to go above and beyond and support me directly here. I hope you can look forward to your exclusive member perks. And again, thank you to all of my members for going above and beyond. It really does mean a lot to me here. I know it's not an easy thing to do, and I guess all I can say is I really hope that my members do enjoy the exclusive perks that they do get there. But, you know, focusing on, I think first what I will focus on briefly, not too long though, because we already talked about it in a video recently, is what Unreal Engine 5, you know, what Epic Games is doing. What blows my mind is there are a lot of, you know, I don't like to call out certain groups of people because I just feel like it's messed up to do that. But there's no denying that most of the people who are continuing to deny the impact of what Sony and what Mark Cerny has decided to do with the PS5, most of them are, you know, kind of the hardcore Xbox fans who were very much excited about the Xbox Series X, and they're very much excited at the fact that on paper the Xbox Series X is the more powerful console. We have Jackie here saying, I hope Sony unveils Half-Life Alyx for PSVR on PS5. That could potentially be something that does happen. I could see, you know, Valve wanting to do that, but it's hard to say exactly if that will happen, but who knows? Maybe it will be a big surprise. Billy Too Smooth, you're saying just join chat. When do you think the PS5 will be revealed? Well, just to catch you up, Billy Too Smooth, I did say that I do think the PS5 will be revealed either the 3rd or 4th week of June. But if you missed that, topic number 1, you can go back and listen to it after the fact. And Jonathan Day, you're saying tomorrow. I think you meant to say tomorrow. We'll see about that. But, you know, I'm just highlighting what we have to understand, that the individual who is saying this about the PlayStation 5 and how they went back and literally rewrote code for Unreal Engine 5, this isn't just some random person, right? Like, this is the Vice President of Engineering at Epic Games, somebody who has a pretty high up there role within one of the biggest gaming companies in the world. And it just blows my mind because there seems to be a group of people who genuinely believe that this is something that Sony is paying for, that Sony is paying all of this money to Tim Sweeney and Epic Games for them to showcase Unreal Engine 5 on it, and then to say all these really nice things about it, and you just continue to hear it, but and it kind of, you know, these two things go hand in hand, where now these people are getting so ridiculous with their claims that they're actually going out of their way to say that clearly Sony has paid Linus Tech Tips now, right? Like Sony got to them, the Sony ninjas and whatnot, and they only want them to say good things about the PS5, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. Like at some point you have to realize that the excitement for the PS5 is significantly greater in the development community than it is for the Xbox Series X. And I'm not saying that as a fanboy. I'm not saying that to take down the Xbox Series X, because I think it's a great console, and I think developers clearly believe that as well. But my question to these people who keep saying this is, tell me, why are all these people continuing to not gloat, that's the wrong word, but continuing to highlight the fact that we have seemingly many high-profile developers coming out here and saying very similar things, specifically about not just the SSD, because I think this is where people get a little bit confused, right? There are some people who believe that people like me and many others are simply saying, wow, what Sony is, like that Sony SSD, that PS5 SSD is truly something else, and it's going to be a game changer. The SSD itself is not the game changer. It's the SSD paired with the I/O throughput and the bandwidth and the removal, the almost pretty much complete removal of every bottleneck that could possibly exist for a console, all working together, and what that is going to enable, right? And you could just tell that basically what we're seeing here. Well, before I say this, I want to acknowledge OK Kapapa. I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but you're saying, I'm hyped for the TSMC 5 nanometer production ramping up as well. This could actually make a 56 compute unit PS5 Pro possible to make. Yeah, that would be a hell of a thing, wouldn't it? I think that many of us are anticipating a PS5 Pro at some point, but you know, if what you're saying here is true, yeah, that would be actually pretty amazing, right? To basically just see a I did mean to say gush, not gloat. Apologize for that, but that would be very interesting to see if Sony were to come out with a PS5 Pro that basically is like, well, a lot of you thought that our GPU in the PS5 wasn't good enough, even though it certainly is good enough. Here you go. Now we're going to have a 56 compute unit GPU to compete with the Xbox Series X in all fronts, right? So that would be interesting. But, you know, my whole thing here is this, it has become very clear to me at this point, and it should be clear to most people. In fact, I think it is clear to most people that we have a situation here where Microsoft, when they were developing their console, they said, look, we're going to go for a wider console with more compute units, and it will be a more powerful console. And, so, you know, Mark Cerny at some point decided that he felt that this is just not what developers really want. Like, what developers are really focusing on is of course they want more raw power, and we're getting that with the PS5. It's going to be way more powerful than the PS4 Pro, way more powerful, right? But what developers seem to really care about more than anything is I/O throughput and how they can be enabled to do things differently with their games, especially when you think about going into the long-term future of gaming within the next 5 to 10 years. Basically, what Sony has opted to go all in with is what most developers, and especially the high-up individuals such as Tim Sweeney and many others, what they've deemed to be the future of game development. And the future of game development, while yes, compute units will, you know, become bigger, we will get more compute units, and GPUs will continue to, you know, become much more powerful. It's the other side of the coin that they believe is going to actually be more impactful at the end of the day, right? Where you're going to see less of the law of diminishing returns taking effect and more actual innovation taking place. And that difference is in, well, what do developers, how are they going to achieve that innovation? And developers are coming out here saying through I/O, it's going to be I/O throughput and memory bandwidth and the SSD all working, you know, basically seamlessly together with, of course, a powerful GPU and CPU. But, you know, that right there, in my opinion, is very clearly what's going to be the difference maker when it comes to, you're talking about, you know, the fundamental change in games and gameplay. Like, how can we actually do different things that we've never done before? Let's not just focus on making worlds bigger and gameplay smoother. All of those things are already happening and they're going to continue to happen, but how do we actually change gameplay? So anyway, we have Draco's S. You're saying, do you know if Microsoft is still doing their small console event this week? If they do, I feel this delay will help Sony during their event due to having more info on the competition. I don't think they are. Draco's. I think that Microsoft, they are going to have some type of June event, but I think it was rumored to be on the 9th or the 10th. I think it's very clear at this point that that's not going to happen. They're also pushing that back, and it will be interesting to see how this unfolds. Like, we were under the assumption and the belief that Sony was going to go out before Microsoft, at least for their June event, right? Could we actually see that reverse now? Could we end up seeing Microsoft ending up going out before Sony does, and how will that impact the overall conversation? I'm going to be completely honest with you right now. If what was rumored to be revealed at Microsoft's event, which is essentially talking more about the Xbox Series X and the hardware features and stuff like that, and then possibly revealing the Xbox Series S Lockhart model, if that's all they plan to talk about and they don't have any new game reveals alongside that, I think that would be a mistake on Microsoft's part, especially when you think that the number one thing Sony is seemingly going to be focusing on during their June event, if it does happen in June, are the games. But that's my thoughts on that. David, you're saying 12 T-flops less, or I guess I should read this the other way around. The PlayStation 5 architecture, not just the SSD, is greater than the 12 teraflops inside of the Xbox Series X. And I have to agree with that, buddy. This is why I'm kind of going on this tangent here and why it's such a big deal. Like, you look at Linus Tech Tips, right? I mean, this is what I've heard multiple high-up individuals, like people who are very well-versed in technology. I think it's the Cherno. I think the Cherno, he was actually a former EA developer. He helped develop the Frostbite engine. He recently did a reaction to Mark Cerny's deep dive. And what's interesting is when you listen to him, he very clearly knows what he's talking about. But he's essentially, as he's listening to what Mark Cerny is saying, Mark Cerny during that event or during that deep dive live stream was talking directly to developers, so talking directly to people like Cherno who understand every single thing he's saying. And the Cherno was basically saying, yeah, this is extremely impressive. And he went on to basically say, and of course I'm paraphrasing here, just like many other developers have said, the T-flop number doesn't really mean anything. The only thing that's going to matter at the end of the day is what these consoles end up producing, the real thing they end up producing. Like, what are you going to see in front of your eyes? What's the tangible experience you can expect to have on this console? And what is the tangible difference going to be between a 12 T-flop console versus a 10.3 T-flop console? You cannot answer that, because T-flops don't tell the story. They never have, they never will, and frankly, gamers are never real gamers who actually care about the tangible gameplay experiences that they get to have at the end of the day. They're never going to care about the T-flop number. They're just not. If they cared that much, they would be on PC. It's as simple as that. If power was everything, they'd be on PC. And if there's something Sony has already proven this generation, is that power is not the be-all, end-all. You don't need to have the most powerful, most T-flop console to make the biggest impact in games. You really don't. And so, I have to mention that Linus Tech Tips and what him and what people like the Cherno are saying, they're all saying that if what Mark Cerny is saying is true, and the reason why they have to word it that way is because we won't know until we see it. I mean, of course we're going to take Mark Cerny's word for it, at least those of us who, are rational enough to believe that Mark Cerny would not go on stage and just lie blatantly to everybody, to millions of people, about what the PS5 is capable of. And what they're all saying is that if what Mark Cerny is saying is true about what's capable of being achieved, the 9 gigabytes, right, of data, and the decompression methods that they've come up with, all of these solutions they've come up with, right, the customizations, which makes the console very important, of course. If this is all true, then yeah, this is a major breakthrough, and this is a big deal. And we've been hearing something I've been hearing a lot of Xbox guys kind of pushing back with. There's like, what about the velocity architecture and all these different names, these different solutions that apparently Microsoft also has for the Xbox Series X? I want to say that it's very possible that these solutions are real and do exist, and maybe Microsoft just hasn't really talked about them in depth yet. In fact, maybe that's something they are saving for their June event. However, all I want to say is that if these solutions are real and these are available inside of these dev kits for developers to utilize, why are they not talking about them? Is it because Microsoft doesn't want them to talk about them yet? That is possible. But why would Microsoft allow Sony and allow developers to just run with this and not combat it? Especially when we see how aggressive Microsoft has been with their marketing in the past 6 months, the past half year, right? It just doesn't make sense to me. And I guess the better question is, even if these solutions do exist within Microsoft's, architecture, and I think they're more software based. I don't know the ratio to, what type of solutions is Sony offering. It seems like to me Sony's solutions are more hardware based. I could be completely off the mark about what I'm talking about here, but to whereas Microsoft's might be more software based. I don't know. We don't know because we don't know every single thing yet, right? But what I'm trying to get at here is it just seems odd to me that if Microsoft could, as some of these individuals are claiming, compete in the same way with what Sony's able to achieve with their I/O throughput and their decompression methods and all this stuff, why are they not talking about it yet? They should have already been talking about it. So we have Sir Holmes. You're saying Linus sells PC parts. That's why he hates Apple and gaming consoles. He cannot profit out of them because they are not upgradable. And I think you're mentioning this because it just kind of adds to the whole point we're trying to make here is, why would somebody like Linus Tech Tips make a video like this? Why would he go that? I mean, you have to first of all realize that Linus Tech Tips didn't have to make this video. And he certainly did not have to come out here and approach this video with a title such as, "I've disappointed and embarrassed myself," right? Like, how much money would Sony have to pay an individual with 11 million subscribers on YouTube to make a title like that? Chances are there's no amount of money. There's no amount of money. And again, if you watch this video, you can clearly see that Linus Tech Tips, he was very much feeling bad about the assumptions he made and the comments he made, and he genuinely felt as though he owed an apology, not to the PlayStation community, of course, but to Tim Sweeney directly, but indirectly he was apologizing to Sony and Mark Cerny and the PlayStation community as well, and the developers who have been backing this up. And so, guys, I guess what I'm trying to get at with the second topic, and it just seems like it's something that we continue to talk about, and I do apologize if I sound like a broken record, but it's hard not to when each week we seemingly have more and more and more developers, as well as very tech-savvy, well-respected individuals within the tech community coming out here and saying very similar things, if not the same things, which is, yes, the PS5 should not be underestimated, and it turns out that going into the future of game development, raw power, raw compute units, and GPU power, and hardware accelerated ray tracing, while all these things are great and will certainly add to the future of games and how they look, it turns out that that's not going to be what enables true fundamental change at a gameplay level. It's not going to be what enables the true innovation that a lot of gamers, not even gamers, I don't even want to talk about gamers, but what a lot of developers are hoping to be able to achieve with their games going into the next 5 to 10 years. And so I just don't know what it's going to take for a lot of these guys who were very much pro Xbox, and they are very much, they seem to have been under the impression that if Microsoft comes out with the more powerful console with more compute units, they seem to have been under the impression that that's going to be the huge difference maker, and that if the PlayStation 5 can't compete in terms of T-flop count, then Sony's going to be in big trouble, and PlayStation fans are going to lose their minds and have a meltdown. And it's like, I will admit, I was kind of guilty in kind of building that up as well, but I won't lie to you guys. The reason why I was kind of talking about the T-flop numbers, because I'm going to be real right now. I honestly didn't understand a lot of what Mark Cerny was explaining and talking about in his deep dive. And over the past couple of months, I've been listening to what developers have had to say. I've been listening to what people have to say who know a hell of a lot more than I do about tech and their take on it. And now I seem to have a much better understanding. And that understanding is important, I think, for a lot of people to have who care about the stuff, because it really, again, to end this topic and move on to the next one, it really does seem like Sony has decided to go all in with trying to enable developers to be able to innovate. And I know that a lot of people are like, well, that doesn't matter because, third-party games are not going to be able to take full advantage of the PS5. Well, you know what? Hell, even if it's just Sony's first-party developers, at least for, the first couple of years or maybe even longer than that, even if it's just the first-party developers that are going to be the ones that have to take full advantage of it, and they're going to be the ones who are going to be able to maybe achieve things that are truly groundbreaking in terms of game development, I'm fine with that as well, because you're talking about some of the most talented development teams in the world. And so, hell, if you ever needed a reason to buy a PS5, that right there alone is more than enough reason to go out there and buy a PS5. That's just my opinion, of course, but anyway, we have Cam. You're saying, saw a game about you at Twitter. Where can I play it? You're going to have to ask Mr. Hamster about that one. I'm not sure if Mr. Hamster is currently here in the chat. If you are, if anybody knows, you could refer Cam here to where you can play this game. I did see it and I did play it. It was very interesting. I played it a while ago though, but I did see the video recently as well. It's pretty cool. Thank you, Mr. Hamster, for doing that. I think Mr. Hamster said he wanted to try to get this game onto the PS4 or PS5. I don't know if that's going to be able to happen, but I mean, that was pretty crazy to me. So if Mr. Hamster's not here right now, I'm sure he'll maybe, he could tell you in the comments or at some point. But we have Jonathan Day. You're saying PS5 was confident every step of the way. Yeah, I do agree with you, Jonathan. I think that Sony, people are under the belief that, or under the assumption that Sony is just being arrogant, or they're falling back into their old arrogant ways, and I don't agree with that at all. In fact, I think you could clearly see that when you listen to the way Mark Cerny talked about the PS5 during the deep dive. He talked about the PS3, and he acknowledged very clearly that they made some mistakes with that, and they made some mistakes with the PS4 Pro and its cooling solution, and they've admitted that they've made these mistakes, and they've tried to find the best balance between learning from these mistakes and improving on them, but also ensuring that they're going to continue to try to innovate in the hardware space and the console gaming space. So, yeah, I'm going to take a drink of water here, check out what the chat's saying. Okay, so yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the second topic, guys, but there was a lot of people asking me to talk about this and acknowledge that Linus Tech Tips came out here and made this video, and in my opinion, there is no doubt that it's a very significant thing, and, I'm just going to be really interested to see, there's a lot of Xbox guys who are continuing to say that Microsoft has their own solutions, and Microsoft is going to be able to compete with Sony in all of these areas, not just the compute unit area. Obviously, they have more compute units in the Series X, not just in terms of raw power and T-flops and potentially ray tracing as well, but they're going to be able to go toe-to-toe with Sony in these other areas as well. And so I guess at this point, I will say I will be interested to see if that's true. I don't believe it right now. I will believe it when I see it, but we'll have to see at the end of the day who ends up having the more impactful games and the games that really end up making the biggest difference in the long run. So yeah, with that being said, guys, we have over 1,700 people still watching, which is amazing. Thank you guys again for being here with me. I really do appreciate it. If you could do me a favor, hit that like button. We already crushed our goal of hitting over 500 likes. In fact, we're almost at 600. So hit that like button. Let's see if we can potentially get it up to 1,000 likes before this podcast ends. It's your easiest way to help support, to have a tangible impact on the podcast and its growth, because the more likes it gets, YouTube likes that, and it decides to push out the podcast, even more so at that point. So hit the like button to help it out. There are two questions I did bring up here, or statements that I wrote. I said, at what point will will people just accept that the PS5's SSD and I/O throughput is actually a very big deal and is clearly going to have a very big impact on games? How many highly respected people who know what they are talking about have to come out and say it? It seems like each day more and more tech guys and developers are speaking to this. And I wanted to ask the chat this: are you surprised to hear that Epic Games actually rewrote code for their next generation game engine because of the PS5's impressive hardware? I have to say, I am surprised. I mean, that is a huge thing. So I see some people who are just joining in and, saying hello, and so I will say hello to you guys. Thank you for showing up to the stream. But we are going to move on to the third topic now, and to me this one is pretty interesting because What's interesting to me is how I seem to be a little bit disconnected, I think, from the community on this one. And so I'm going to be really interested to see what you guys have to say about this. I read a lot of comments. I actually even put out a poll on my channel that I do want to try to bring up here to reference. We're talking about Bloodborne, and Bloodborne going to PC apparently, but not just that. On top of it going to PC, it's also going to be remastered for the PlayStation 5. And, that's on top, apparently, that is on top of this Demon's Souls remake, which I am obviously very excited about. I don't think a lot of people on my channel actually understand just how excited I really am for a Demon's Souls remake. Dark Souls, the Dark Souls series, is one of my all-time favorite gaming series. So, yeah, Anthony, you're saying check out this link I'm putting in the chat, leak. Well, I appreciate that, Anthony. First off, I don't know if I can click on a link that you're going to put in the chat, and I don't know if I'm comfortable clicking a random link in the chat. I don't know, not live during the stream, but maybe you could let us know what this leak is. Did something just leak out that I'm not aware of? I don't know. Sometimes I think people like to do this on my channel when I'm streaming to kind of throw me off. So there are a lot of people in my area who ride motorcycles, and I don't know if you noticed this, but every single week when I'm streaming or anytime I'm live, even in my videos, you constantly hear motorcycles. It's crazy. So, I don't know. It doesn't bother me, but I just don't know if you guys noticed that. I've noticed that recently. But anyway, we're going to talk about Bloodborne, as I'm getting very distracted here. This happens every time during the stream. I just get these lapses, these moments of ADD or ADHD. But we're moving on to the third topic here. There is a new rumor that seems to be gaining. Well, okay, before I do that, let me acknowledge these super chats. I appreciate this, guys. You're saying, Chris B, it's funny. Fanboys want to claim that the Xbox Series X will be a PlayStation 5 plus 2 T-flops and then be cheaper when Microsoft can't even pay Epic or Linus Tech tips properly. Oh, man, you're throwing some shade there, at the people who believe, for some reason, that these people are being paid off. Yeah, I mean, if that was true, if Microsoft, if it's true that Sony's paying these guys, couldn't Microsoft do the same thing? Couldn't they do the same thing, especially since they have a lot more money than Sony? Anthony Howard, you're saying console design leak. I'm going to be honest with you right now, Anthony. I don't think the actual design of the console actually leaked out. Right now, if it did leak, there would be sources, I think, coming out and either confirming or denying it. But I don't know. I haven't seen anything. But let's move on to the third topic here. It says, there is a new rumor that seems to be gaining a lot of traction that Bloodborne is getting a remaster that will release on both PlayStation 5 and PC. The remaster is being done by both Bluepoint Games and Q-Lock. And for those who are wondering who Q-Lock is, they are the developers of Dark Souls Remastered, and it seems the reason why this is a joint effort between these... let me get my other paper here. Why this is a joint effort between these two developers is not because of how big of an undertaking a Bloodborne Remastered is, but because most of Bluepoint Games, most of their team is actually working on a from-the-ground-up Demon's Souls remake for PlayStation 5. What's interesting is, based off of what I can see, a lot of people are actually not fully on board with a Bloodborne Remaster because they feel it's unnecessary, since the PS5 will play PS4 titles through backwards compatibility. Many also seem to feel that if this is true, then those who already own Bloodborne should get a major discount, or they should be able to get the upgrades for the remastered edition for free. So I have a lot to say about this, but before I do that, we have MH. You're saying you are surrounded by Xbots with bikes and lawnmowers. Yeah, that's the thing, man. Is like, I mean, I happen to be... I'm in a room with windows, and I don't have any soundproofing in here, so there's just going to be some stuff that comes across. You guys don't seem to mind, so I don't mind, And we also have 19338 Luke. Once again, thank you, buddy, for the super chats. You're saying, I think that, and Sony exclusives... you're saying, I think Sony exclusives that go to PC is a great thing. More people get to play games, and more people will want to buy a Sony system just to play the game when it comes out. I'm assuming you're saying like the sequel to those games when they come out. Again, there's a lot to unpack here because there is Seemingly, there is a strategy that Sony is employing or plans to, put in place. They've already started, and it's going to continue. And I think it may put some PlayStation gamers off, but I'm going to talk about that and why I think it's actually a very smart one. But first, let's focus on this Bloodborne thing. There's a lot of people who are not believing this Bloodborne leak, and it's understandable. There's a lot of different leaks and rumors, and it can be annoying sometimes because you don't know, what do I believe, what do I not believe. I see somebody saying, MBG, just look how choppy and downgraded Ghost of Tsushima is. I actually want to let you know if the frame rate for this Ghost of Tsushima gameplay is not that great. That's actually, I think, on my end. I don't know why. It may have actually been a rendering issue when I rendered this compilation video. So anyway, this Bloodborne rumor seems to be true because there are a lot of actual, legitimate sources backing this up. There is a small YouTuber named PC Gaming Inquisition or something like that, and they relayed a lot of information that they only have 300, 400 subscribers or something like that. They relayed a lot of information about this. They talked about Bloodborne going to PC, but also getting, I think, a PS5 remaster. They also talked about how when Sony has this event showcase, they plan to end the showcase by showing off Demon's Souls Remake, which would sound awesome to me. But they're saying, they also talked a little bit about Sony's strategy and how they want to, apparently Sony wants to start releasing more of their older back catalog onto PC to entice more gamers to end up going out there and buying a PlayStation 5 for some of these sequels that they're going to have in the works. So speaking to Bloodborne, first of all, I did put out a video where I was very excited about this, about the idea of a remaster on the PS5. A lot of people are not on board with this. There's a lot of people that don't like the idea of a remastered version of Bloodborne because they don't like the idea of Sony reselling a game when they could just basically put out an update for the game that would enhance it for the PlayStation 5. And so I thought long and hard about this because I really don't know how Sony would handle this. I tell you right now, I am not anticipating that Sony's just going to put a Bloodborne remaster out there for free. I just don't see that happening. I think they're going to sell it no matter what. I certainly do not think they would sell it for $60. I think that would be a huge mistake. So then the question then becomes, would they sell it for 40? Would they sell it for 30 or 20? And are they even justified in selling a remastered version of Bloodborne, considering it's just about 5 years old? There's a lot of people who think that the game still plays fine and that it should just be boosted on the PS4. Now, here's the best solution, I think, in my opinion, if this turns out to be true. I think if they are really doing a remastered version, you're going to see some more benefits that go beyond just a higher frame rate, right? There's also some people who've mentioned that Bloodborne is one of these games that has to kind of be, it has to be redone in order for it to actually run properly on the PS5. I don't know if that's true. They're both x86 architecture. But my whole thing with this here is I believe that Bloodborne Remastered, if it's real, if Sony is going to sell it, they should not sell it for more than $20. But what they should also do is anybody who currently owns or who already owns Bloodborne should be entitled, as long as they have the disc or if they have it downloaded onto their console, they should be entitled to those upgrades for free. But for those who maybe never played Bloodborne and just want to buy a PS5 version, they should offer it for about $20. But they should also offer it to those who are going to buy the Demon's Souls remake for free as well. You basically get, if you pre-order it, you get Bloodborne Remastered for free. I think that this would be the best way for them to potentially to resell the game, but in a way that it doesn't come off as anti-consumer, because you have all these different avenues to be able to get the game or be entitled to the upgrades for potentially for free. And I guess I was just a little bit surprised. There's just a lot of people who feel that, Sony shouldn't be doing this, but I don't know. I'm not totally against it. I think that it's how they handle it. I see somebody saying Bloodborne Remaster is in no way real. It will be enhanced for PS5. Well, that's the thing. I mean, they could very well just announce that it's going to be enhanced for the PS5, and there will be a separate PS5 version you can buy if you want. But if you own the game, you're already going to get those enhancements, but it's also going to come to PC. So we have another member here, True Witty. Thank you, buddy, for opting to become a member and support me directly here on the channel. I really do appreciate that. I hope you can look forward to your exclusive perks. thank you for going above and beyond to support me here, True Witty. Really means a lot, and that goes for all my members. But I think that I don't know, man. Like, this is just a big question mark that a lot of people have about how Sony is planning on handling this stuff. Like, are they going to continue remasters? If they do, what games are considered to be justified? Like, Demon's Souls remake? A remake from the ground up is completely different from a remaster, and Bluepoint Games has clearly been working on it for a very long time. So if this is in fact something that is real, which I do think Demon's Souls remake is 100% real, I think it's totally justifiable to sell it for $60. Something else I've also seen kind of thrown my way, and anybody else's way who's excited for this, is, what about being excited for new games? Why are you hyping up remasters and remakes? I thought it was about new games. Well, that's the thing, is of course it's about new games. Of course that's what we're all extremely excited for, but we also have to understand here that, we can be excited for both. Like, if Sony decides they want to remaster Bloodborne and remake Demon's Souls, those are not going to be the only games that Sony has for the PS5. Certainly not. They're going to have a lot of new games, a lot of sequels as well, a lot of new IP, especially in the coming years. So I don't think there's anything wrong with being excited for both, and I'm particularly excited for Demon's Souls remake because I never got to experience it, and I thought what Bluepoint Games did with Shadow of the Colossus was absolutely awesome. I think that they knocked it out of the park, and to think that they're going to do that same thing for a PS5 version of Demon's Souls, that's extremely exciting to me. Chris B, you're saying, I think if Bloodborne is updated and supports PS5 boost mode, I have no issue paying for an actual remaster or remake. I think a lot of people, well, actually, to kind of speak to that, Chris, I want to highlight a poll that I put out. And in this poll, I said, and I put this out one day ago, I said, would you buy a Bloodborne PS5 remaster? I said, yes, Bloodborne would be playable through backwards compatibility and might even get some improved frame rates through the boost mode, through the PlayStation 5 backwards compatibility mode. But I think people don't understand that if it was to actually be remastered, there would be definitely more going into a remastered version than it just being boosted by the hardware itself. 54% of people, and there was actually 13,000 votes here, so 54% of people said yes, 46% of people said no, and there was actually a lot of comments, a lot of upvoted comments as well, people saying that they don't want to see that. Like, they don't think that a game like Bloodborne needs to be remastered. They don't think that it's necessary. They think it's just, it's just kind of anti-consumer if they're going to make people pay for it. So I don't know what to think of this. I think that it would be perfectly fine for Sony to announce this as long as they make it very clear that they're not trying to be anti-consumer. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you guys. If they remastered Bloodborne and they sold it for $60, I think that would be definitely anti-consumer. I think that would be just crossing the line at this point, especially when their console is backwards compatible. True Witty, you're saying, hey, the reason Xbox Series X isn't being praised like the PS5 is because the PS5 is better, but both will run well. Plus, if the Xbox Series X is better, Xbox would say, plus devs would too. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, man. Like, I think it speaks to what I was saying earlier, that if the Xbox Series X's power was as big of a deal as all these Xbox guys want to make it sound, why are developers not talking about it? And why are developers continuing to talk about how big of a deal the I/O throughput is and the SSD solution that Sony has come up with and their decompression method, all this stuff? Why is this the stuff that developers are focusing on, right? At least most developers. There are developers who are saying good things about the Series X, but still, like, if it was that big of a difference, most of these developers should be hyping up the Series X, not the other way around. So yeah, I do agree with that, True Witty. And so, I don't know, guys, when it comes to a Bloodborne remastered, to be completely honest, I would be excited to see that. But when we think about the PlayStation 5 event, we want to see new stuff, and we're going to see new stuff. And that's why I'm okay with the idea of maybe we see some remasters and some remakes as well. I think there can be room for both. Obviously, we want to see more new stuff than old stuff, of course. But I don't think there's any wrong with just seeing some old stuff, right? Especially if it's, like, again, something like a Demon's Souls remake, that's huge to me. But we have Jordan Ransom. You're saying T-flop difference between the PS4 and Xbox One was 33%. The gap between PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X was 35%. The gap between PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X is 15 to 20%. Xbox think there will be a massive gap. A rude awakening will hit. I agree with you 100%, buddy. I mean, it's true that the difference now between these two consoles is smaller than it's ever been. And you're also talking about the law of diminishing returns in some areas beginning to take place. I highly doubt the difference. See, it wouldn't surprise me if at the end of the day, the difference you actually end up seeing is on the PlayStation 5. Now, that would be a hell of a rude awakening for Xbox guys, wouldn't it? If Sony puts out these exclusive games that are doing things that you don't see any games from Microsoft's first party being able to achieve on the Series X. Wouldn't that be a hell of a thing? In my opinion, it would be. So we'll have to wait and see, but you do bring up a very good point there. Thank you so much for the donations, guys. We also have a new member, Spooky Z. Welcome to the channel, buddy. Thank you so much for going above and beyond to support me here directly, as I like to thank all of my members. I hope you can look forward and enjoy your exclusive perks. And yeah, thanks for going above and beyond, buddy. Welcome to the channel. And we have Edward Jordan. You're saying, are the Sony titles going to PC via the Epic Games Store? I don't know about that. I did hear that apparently Bloodborne will be available on Steam and most likely the Epic Games Store as well. But that's the second part of this conversation with this topic that I want to have. We have Mike V. You're saying Sony could partner with their own Sony Picture Studios and release games and movies in tandem. The tech in the PlayStation 5 will allow movie asset streaming. That would be a very interesting thing. Yeah, that I think is an advantage that Sony does have, that they're going to, I think it's been kind of clear at this point, they're trying to weave into the PlayStation brand, because the PlayStation brand for Sony is the most lucrative and successful brand they have. And so they have movie divisions, they have music divisions, and we've been hearing, and they have like a dedicated TV division now for PlayStation, right? Not just TV, but anything related to PlayStation. I almost said PlayStation. Anything dedicated to PlayStation that they're going to put out there that is not just a game. And so I certainly think that is something they could do. I think you're going to start to see these other areas under Sony, kind of start to weave in and make a bigger impact in, the PlayStation brand in general. Let me take another drink here, guys, because as usual, my voice is becoming strained. Always have to apologize for that awkward dead air, but that's the nature of doing a solo podcast and talking nonstop. But the second part of what I want to talk about with this topic, and I find it interesting because I think it definitely creates a little bit of a divide. However, I don't think it's necessary. I put out a tweet to kind of sum it up, and I'm going to read this tweet to you guys, all right? This tweet seemed to have gotten, mostly positive response as well. But the tweet says, for those not aware, Sony's strategy is to release more and more of their older PS4 exclusives onto PC in an effort to attract players to the PlayStation 5. Day and date releases will not be happening, and if they do, it's not anytime remotely soon. Sony has made that crystal clear. And day and date will not be happening, although that does not mean that some PlayStation 5 titles will not ever make their way to PC. For those who were thinking that every single PS5 game will be exclusive, it's very possible. But I also want to say it's also not unrealistic to expect that maybe at some point in time, you might see maybe some of their more multiplayer-centric games releasing with PC. Maybe eventually down the line, I'm talking years down the line, maybe they'll release a single-player game as well. It's not, out of the realm of possibility. And I also went on to say that Sony wants to make more money off of their back catalog of titles, while also enticing non-PlayStation owners to finally go out and buy a PlayStation console. This is especially effective when you take into account that the PlayStation 5 price to performance ratio will already be very enticing to PC players. So, for those who are not aware, this is the strategy that Sony plans to employ, and I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, I'm all for this. I know this sounds crazy to some people, but I'm actually happy. I will be happy if Bloodborne releases on PC, because not only is it just going to show how much more life there is in a game like Bloodborne, and look, we have to be real right now. Mr. Hamster, if you're here, by the way, there was an individual who was asking earlier where they could go to play the official, or unofficial, I guess you could say, MBG game that you made. So if you could let us know in the chat if he's still here so he'll know where to go to play it. But, you know, Bloodborne, we have to be real right now, guys. Sony got absolutely every possible thing they could get out of Bloodborne on PlayStation 4 at this point. So we're going into, you know, the next generation, and a lot of these PlayStation 4 games, while they will be playable through backwards compatibility, you know, they're going to be stuck on the PlayStation 4. And so if Sony decides not only can we get more money by selling these older games, you know, and breathing more life into these games by putting them on the PC, but if they're also looking at it as, let's say one day we want to, you know, do a Bloodborne 2. You know, that's going to... And if they make Bloodborne 2 exclusive to just the PlayStation 5, there's a good chance that there is a certain subsection, at least some gamers, who never bought a PS4 to play Bloodborne, and they only end up playing Bloodborne on the PC, and because they loved it so much, Bloodborne 2 eventually down the line, PlayStation 5 only, now they're going to go buy a PS5. You know, not everybody will, but there's definitely some people. And this is what they're going to do with Horizon. Why do you think they're putting Horizon Zero Dawn? Why do you think they're making that the first game that they're putting on the PC officially? It's because we know we're going to get a Horizon Zero Dawn sequel. And it's going to be PS5 exclusive. Jim Ryan literally confirmed that PlayStation 5 games are going to be exclusive. So I wouldn't anticipate that a lot of, you know, I wouldn't anticipate that a lot of people are going to, you know, go out there and buy PS5s immediately, but it'll definitely do a good job in, you know, enticing them. And we have Stephen F. You're saying, please make a statement in support of Black Lives Matter. You're great. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, for those wondering, the reason why I haven't talked about it on the channel is because, to be completely honest with you, and I understand that some people think that I'm part of the problem by not acknowledging it or talking about it, but, you know, I am under the belief, or at least I have the belief, that there's a lot of people who they look to certain outlets to, you know, kind of unplug and disconnect and not become ignorant, but just, you know, to it's their outlet, you know, and that's why I didn't want to make this a place where I do that, you know, to try to bring the world's problems into the channel. I mean, we're all human here. We all know what's going on, and it's crazy. And yeah, like, what I will say, my statement is there's a lot of people who definitely abuse their power. There's a lot of people who take advantage, and there are definitely issues in our society, in this country, and even extending worldwide, that are systemic, and they need to be stomped out. They need to be removed, and they need to be just eventually, we need to get to a point where it's not I don't want to say it's not a problem, because it will always be a problem. It will always exist, but it's not anywhere near as much of a problem as it still seems to be in 2020. So yeah, that's pretty much all I'm going to say on it, because again, I try not to get too deep into this, but you know, I'm fully in support of, you know, not only, you know, stomping out all racism, but in also trying to understand, like, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement. It seems to me that a big thing behind that is it's about understanding, you know, the culture. It's about understanding what they've had to go through, and the struggles that they went through and that they continue to go through. And that's the point of it. And there's a lot of people who just don't seem to understand that. And so, yeah, that's all I'm going to say on the matter before getting too into it. Because again, I'm trying not to get political here on the channel, so hopefully you understand that. But we have NES Ninja Skills. You're saying Bloodborne was my favorite game this generation. New textures and higher frame rate. The new servers would justify a $60 price for me. Crossplay would be a plus. Hope this is true. Well, that's the thing, NES Ninja Skills. I do think that there are a lot of people who feel just like you do as well, and because of that, you know, they probably would pay $60, but I think it would be in Sony's best interest, if they're planning on doing this. Whatever you do, Sony, don't sell it at $60. There will be some backlash, even if it ends up selling really well. Chris B, you're saying, thank you for that donation, by the way, NES Ninja Skills. Chris B, you're saying, OMBG, that Amazon game is called Crucible, released on May 20th, an Overwatch Battleborn style live service. Yeah, okay. I did see that in the news, and so yeah, it's very interesting. I did see that, like, I saw a picture of that and was like, that looks so damn generic. Like, and that's all I thought. Eddie, who you're saying a lot of people are starting to realize the SSD is years ahead of anything on the market, and it's not just about load times, going to be a rude awakening on first party for a lot of people. Yeah, I 100% agree, Eddie, who the rude awakenings are going to happen, and they're going to start with seeing what Sony's first party studios can achieve with this SSD, and not just the SSD, but the entire architecture that is the PlayStation 5. Gabriel, you're saying, please, no politics here. I know, man. I know. I just don't want to ignore people who are sending in super chats, but I have my limit with what I'll talk about in terms of politics, simply because guys, like, for me, there's a stressful time, and I know it's stressful for everybody, and I'm the human being, and I look to certain outlets, and for me on my channel, this is one of my outlets, talking to my community, keeping it gaming, talking positively about PlayStation and games in general. And so, it doesn't mean I won't ever say anything about anything, but it's just not something I'm going to go out of my way to talk about. So hopefully you guys understand that. It's not because I'm trying to, I have something to hide. Like, absolutely not. It's just, I think most of you understand. Mark, you're saying, hey MBG, PlayStation 5 delivered to our homes. I would love to see if a PlayStation 5 got delivered to my home. I'd be cool with that. That's probably how I'm going to get mine. My big fear is, am I going to be able to get one day one? I don't know. But we have Silverback. You're saying Black Lives Matter also. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely... Justin, you're saying, thanks for understanding the moment and culture. Well, thank you for, understanding. Again, I'm trying not to turn the conversation into that, but, the final thing I'll say here, just because I know that some people are going to want to, it feels like it's impossible not to talk about, I see Kelvin, you're saying lives aren't politics. That's the problem. Now, yeah, I do understand what you're saying, Kelvin. I do, and we have Justin, you're saying, I think you meant to say movement. Yeah. Well, I mean, movement, it is, they kind of go hand in hand right now. MH, you're saying, Mark, do you really want your new PS5 tossed around by UPS? Could you imagine that? Could you imagine ordering a PS5 and it comes in and it's all messed up? That'd be terrible. But the final thing I'll say on the matter is, hold on here before I lose track of, I don't want to miss anybody's super chats. Okay, yeah, the last thing I'll say on the matter is, I understand, like, Kelvin, you were saying, it's about people. It's not just politics. And I do agree, man. Like, it is a trying time for a lot of people, and there's just a lot of unrest. And I will say this. I came across this video. What's his name? He was a former, I think, Navy SEAL, Jekko Willick, I think. I think you guys may know him, but he was a former Navy SEAL, and he put out a video. And his video was talking about World War I and how, at the time, like in the trenches, there was this, there was like this legend that they actually decided to just like lay down their arms and just greet each other and hang out and basically just make jokes and learn about each other. And they even played soccer apparently. And, for a brief moment, it was like, it wasn't about war. It was about just realizing like, oh, like we're all just people and we all have kind of the same thing in common. And he was basically just trying to say, like, no matter what you're fighting for, no matter, sometimes you have to realize, no matter how empowered you feel about doing what's right or, believing what's wrong, you always have to remember that it's people. They're people. We're all people. And you have to always remember to look at it that way and not dehumanize people. Because once you do that, you start to dehumanize yourself. And I just thought it was a really powerful statement, and I the guy, like, you could tell, like, he was very, very sincere about what he was saying. And so it was just very interesting. And so I guess that's what I'll say too, is like, you can never forget that regardless of what side you stand on, regardless of, whether you're doing what you believe is right and you're fighting against what you believe is wrong, you always have to remember people are people, and we all kind of, in a way, go through the same things, but we always have to try to be sure to. I think like the more you humanize things, the easier it is to make the right choices, I think is the last thing I'll say. So I apologize. So you're making me go on a tangent here. But Chris B, you're saying, what do you think about console trade-ins? I really want to trade my PS4 Pro in for a PS5. I certainly think that GameStop and other retailers and outlets will be coming out here, and they will have specific offers for people who want to trade in their PS4 Pros. I don't know if I'm going to keep mine or not. Because the PlayStation 5 will be backwards compatible, I don't know that I would need to keep mine for any reason, but maybe I will. My big concern is I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to get a PS5 day one. That's my big concern. So, but, I'm getting a little bit off track here, and I don't want this podcast to end up being 3.5 to 4 hours long. So, let's see here. So I brought up these questions in regard to the Bloodborne remaster. Let me see. I said, how would you feel if when you bought Demon's Souls Remake, you got Bloodborne Remastered for free with it? If not, how would you feel about it being sold for $40 or $20 separately? So I know we talked about that earlier, but I see somebody saying GameStop's still alive, ? Yeah, I don't know, man. Somehow they are. We're going to have to, yeah, that's the Christmas Day truce of 1914 MG. Yeah, that's what I was referring to. But I also said many people are saying that we should get Bloodborne. We should be, and this is another thing I forgot to mention as well, is somebody said, not just somebody, but many people were saying that we should be getting a Bloodborne 2 instead of a, like a Bloodborne remaster. And, I just need to point out to a couple people why that's probably not, look, the reason why Bloodborne 2 is not going to happen anytime soon is because people have to understand that From Software is currently probably elbow or neck deep in Elden Ring development, and we've also been hearing that it might be a little longer until we actually get this game or see it. And because of that, that's probably the only project they're working on. They could be working on more than one project, but in order for Sony to be able to get them to work on a Bloodborne 2, they have to be free to do so. And so I think Sony kind of feels that the next best thing as of right now is to offer a remastered version of Bloodborne and show that they still care about the IP. And the only other option they have, and I'm pretty sure most people are against this, is Sony could end up, deciding that they want to, because they own the Bloodborne IP, they could just say, hey, we're going to get a different studio to develop it. We're going to get Sony Japan to develop it. But do people really want a Bloodborne 2 without From Software's involvement? I think the general consensus and the answer would be no. And I think Sony is well aware of that. So I think Sony will try to make a Bloodborne 2 happen, but I think they're going to have to wait until, From Software is free. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Hidetaka Miyazaki, he said that he would love to do a Bloodborne 2. I'm pretty sure he went on record saying that, and that it's kind of up to Sony. So hopefully Sony does the right thing and, they can strike a deal. And yeah, I think that would be a awesome thing. So, anyway, we are going to move on to the next topic here. We still have over 1,600 people watching, which is awesome. Thank you guys again for hanging out here with me. If you could do me a favor, be sure to hit the like button. We are over 800 likes, which is absolutely awesome. We are so close to hitting the 1,000 like goal, probably faster than we ever have. So thank you guys so much for showing the support, and helping this podcast grow week over week really does mean a lot to me. And so we're going to move on to the next topic. And the next topic, we are talking about The Last of Us Part 2. So I do want to encourage anybody who is afraid of reading any type of spoilers or anything, you might want to avoid the chat until we're done talking about this topic. Mods, if you could do me a favor, try to remove anybody who's trying to spoil stuff, because we're trying not to do that here, guys. And I know most of you won't, but Chris Gaming Show, you're saying, what happened to Elden Ring? Elden Ring is still in development. I'm hearing that we might not see it this year, which would be crazy. But I've also heard that apparently they might be having issues with the actual name of the game and trademarking, and that's why we might not have heard anything about it or might not hear anything about it for a little while, which is unfortunate. I don't know if there's any truth to that. That's just what I read. But it seems like Elden Ring might come out a little bit later than we're expecting. And in the meantime, From Software fans are going to potentially get a Bloodborne remaster and a Demon's Souls remake for the next year and a half until the game comes out. So that sounds awesome to me. So anyway, moving on to the next topic here. It seems there is more mounting evidence that The Last of Us 2 might end up being the biggest selling PlayStation game in history. According to IGN Brazil, The Last of Us 2 has surpassed God of War in becoming the most pre-ordered exclusive ever in Brazil. This comes right after we learned that The Last of Us Part 2 has surpassed Spider-Man in pre-orders in Europe, which is also huge. The review embargo is lifting on June 12th, and it seems the game is going to get very high scores, which will only boost its sales potential. The current record holder is Spider-Man, selling 3.3 million units in just 3 days. There is no denying, regardless of how you feel about this game, that it's an absolute juggernaut. And I had to highlight this because, it really is starting to seem that The Last of Us Part 2 is going to break some major records and hit some new milestones for Sony. I haven't heard anything about the US yet, and I'm sure if anything does happen in the US, we'll hear about it, but I have a good feeling that you're going to hear Sony talking about the sales of this game, and I think that regardless of how, putting my personal feelings aside, I think that the game, based off of what I've seen, certainly deserves all the success it's going to get, because again, I think that it's very clear that the developers put their heart and soul into this game. And you can just clearly see that off of the gameplay and just how good the game looks. It's shocking. It's actually kind of shocking. And so something else I wrote down here that I want to read to you guys and talk about is, let me see here. I said it's worth noting that recently Neil Druckmann did an interview with Eurogamer where he claims that some of the leaks that have been circulating are false and not true, and that certain storylines have actually been misconstrued. He says the reason why they haven't outright said which ones are fake versus which ones are real is because by doing so, they feel as though they would end up actually revealing the story and what it is and what it isn't. He also claims that those who will benefit the most from the story are also the ones who are currently yelling the loudest, and that he hopes there's enough here to end up drawing them in so that they can experience it for themselves. Apparently this game will also be emotionally difficult to play through. So there was a lot more that he said. I believe he also was trying to say that, what they're doing in the game, they're not just trying to score diversity points and stuff like that. And so you can tell that Neil Druckmann is clearly pushing back against a lot of the negative things that have been said about this game or that are still being said about the game by, people. And I see some people saying, oh, MBG, you're a blind shill. Like, listen, look, here's how I feel about The Last of Us 2. And I know I seemingly talk about this every week, but I'm just I have a feeling like if you want to support it, support it. If you don't. If you want to buy and play it. If you don't. It's literally that simple. And so I realized, am I going to be one of these jackasses that comes out here and day after day after day after video after video after video saying the same thing about this game, basically just, harping on it over and over? Or am I just going to stop and decide for myself whether I want to play it or not? And here's the thing. If I decided that I didn't want to play it, the last thing I would be doing is talking about it. And this is what I find really strange about this whole situation, is the reason why I talked about it the way I did earlier or back in May was because I care a lot about The Last of Us. I'm very passionate about, this game and these characters. And it was just, I felt like I got slapped in the face a bunch of times. And, that's my fault for willingly allowing that to happen. But I had to express my feelings, man. And I had to talk about it. But I eventually realized that, it's too much. MBG just says what people want to hear. That's not true, actually, and I implore you to go look at videos. I have plenty of videos on my channel where I got backlash, and I was not saying what people want to hear. I was saying what I was thinking and how I was feeling, and if you don't believe that, go back and check. You can find evidence of that. Nuns Braga, you're saying, feels like The Last of Us 2 will surprise us. Time will tell. Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm not going to lie. Again, I don't know if it's the PR working on me or not. As somebody who was exposed to the leaks, and I've seen a lot of them, I obviously don't expect all of them to turn out to be fake. I've also decided that in order for me to properly judge the game, I need to experience it in full context. If I plan to talk about the game, I have to play the game, right? Gabriel, you're saying Red Dead Redemption 2 looks better graphically than The Last of Us 2. I don't know. Maybe it does. I did play Red Dead 2 on the Xbox One X, and it looked stunning. And it was shocking as well. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see some comparisons made between the two. But I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if the PR is working on me, but I do genuinely feel like a little bit more excited to hear that apparently, things are being misconstrued with the leaks. Not all of them are true. And so, I have to admit, guys, like, I'm changing my tune, and I don't care. Like, if people want to call me a shill, if people want to say I have no backbone, or people want to say that I can't ever make up my mind, it doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't, because the truth is, guys, like, I haven't been playing anything recently. That's why I have just kind of B-roll footage. I've been playing some PUBG, but at this point, I just feel like I'm just waiting for The Last of Us, and, I'm just, after seeing this latest gameplay, it's just hard not to feel excited to, look, like, I could play the game and I could end up hating it, but it's hard not to feel excited at the scale of this game. Like, it's a freaking big game, man. And it's like, it's hard not to feel that you want, like, I want to experience it. And that doesn't mean I'm going to blindly praise it. I mean, again, if I play it and I'm disturbed by what I played to the point where I don't like it, I'm going to let you guys know. If I play it and I just think it's okay, I'll let you guys know. If I play it and I'm impressed, I'll let you know. But it just feels like as we get closer to it, it's just, I feel it kind of creeping up on me. Like, it's hard to not feel the weight of this game, is all I'm trying to say. How much is Neil Druckmann paying you? He's definitely being paid off. Yeah, guys, I got to tell you, man, Sony's writing me those big checks. That's why I don't have a review copy, because they're paying me to say these things. Like, no, come on, guys. It's not that serious. Like, I understand that there are people who are so dead set against this game that they want me to not play it, but I'm my own person. I'm going to make my own choice, and I'm going to play it and I'm going to experience it. And again, if I play it and I think it sucks, I'll flat out come out and say, guys, I think this game sucked. If I play it and I'm like, oh, the gameplay was great, but the story sucked, I'll let you know. But I don't know, man. I'm feeling the weight of the game. NES Ninja Skills, you're saying, I decided to pre-order the game, though I read the leaks and have seen the videos. Still going to give it a chance. Are you going to pre-order? If I do, I'll probably do it like a day or two before the game comes out. I'm not, to me, I'm not the type to usually pre-order games, being completely honest here. I usually just buy them like as soon as they're about to come out. Nuns Braga, or Spooky Z, thank you for that, buddy, for the donation. True Whittier saying, I'm getting The Last of Us 2 regardless of the leaks. You think it's going to be Game of the Year? It could be Game of the Year, yeah. I mean, we'll have to see. It'll be interesting to see what type of critical response it gets. Nuns Braga, you're saying new NES. Oh, wait. New NES Braga. Oh, sorry. Is that what I've been saying? Noons or Nuns Braga. New NES Braga. And yeah, maybe it's a PR. I apologize for that. I do that a lot. Seemingly, I say people's names completely wrong. Ep.18, you're saying it's okay, MBG, let the excitement for The Last of Us 2 overtake your life. I mean, look, like, if you want to not like me anymore because I had a very emotional response to The Last of Us 2, and, I was heated in the moment, and now as we get closer to launch and I'm removed from that, I'm getting a little bit excited to play it, fine. Don't like me anymore. Hate me. It's fine. I'm not going to tell people how they should or shouldn't feel about me, and I understand how that looks. I understand that it looks like, oh, you're saying what people want to hear. Like, if that was true, don't you think I'd be, like, still saying negative things? Because there's still a lot of people saying negative things. No, I just, I'm a human being, and my feelings on things can change, and it depends on, I have to construct my own thoughts. And I'm not saying that I take back everything I said about this game and the leaks, because that's not the case. There is a lot of stuff that I still feel very passionate about, and I have a lot of anxiety with this game, and it doesn't make me feel much better when Neil Druckmann says that this game is going to be emotionally difficult to play through, because I feel like I know why he's saying that, and it makes me a little bit upset. But at the same time, it's like, it feels like it's something I have to experience. And yeah, I don't mean to make a big deal of it, but I know that people will make a big deal of it, because they're like, wait, weren't you bashing the game? And it's like, yeah, and I know, but look, like, all I can do is be honest with you guys. If I can't be honest with you guys, then what the hell does that make me? That makes me a liar, and I'm not going to lie about, how I'm feeling about anything. MH, you're saying, I'm a little worried that Naughty Dog is pushing the PS4 Pro to its max. I might wait until the PS5 comes out. I am a little bit worried as well. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous to some people, but, my PlayStation 4 Pro gets so absurdly loud, I'm literally afraid this game is going to melt my PlayStation 4 Pro. Spooky Z, you're saying pre-ordering The Last of Us next week. Refuse viewing leaks. I don't know why I had trouble reading that, but I understand that, man. Going into the game blind is probably the best way to go into it. MBG is pandering. No, I'm not, dude. I'm not pandering. Trust me, I'm not. You're going to see. If I'm unhappy with this story, you're going to see how I'm not pandering to anybody. Justin B, you're saying the emotional response is negative or positive is only proof of the quality of developers PlayStation has. There is something to be said for that, Justin, for sure. I mean, if I had to choose whether I'd want to play a game that I feel completely indifferent about and have no feelings on it and just don't care, versus playing a game that I have strong negative feelings towards, I guess you could say in that sense they succeeded, because, hey, getting a response is better than getting no response at all, right? Even if it is negative sometimes. Not always, though. You don't want a purely negative response. That's never good either. Super Trendy Moneymaker, you're saying, thanks to accessibility, blind people can play Game of the Year. Yeah, that is something I highlighted. I made a video. It ended up getting over 100,000 views, which made me really happy, because I thought that was a really important thing that a lot of people should be aware of, is how above and beyond Naughty Dog went when it comes to the accessibility features. They're calling it industry defining. And again, there's a lot of good things about this game. And I've just come to the conclusion that if I play the game and I hate the story, right? If I hate it and I just despise it, there's a lot of other things about the game that I can still like, right? Like, I don't have to dislike everything about the game. And I feel like a lot of people have that mindset as well, and they're kind of realizing that, well, there's a lot more to games than just the story. Although there's no denying that The Last of Us Part 2 story is a huge factor. So I'm excited. To be honest, at this point, I'm excited to see if I love it, hate it, or just don't really feel much about it. That's what I'm excited about at this point. New NES Braga, you're saying, sounds like new NES than nuns in first word. Yeah, that was just my fault. A lot of times I look over people's names too quickly and I end up just completely butchering them, so sorry about that. Scott Huey, you're saying, why are people concerned about what you play or don't play? To be honest, Scott, I don't know if they're concerned about what it is I play or don't play. I think they're concerned about whether I agree with them or not. And there was a lot of people, like, if you go back and if you watch those videos I put out about The Last of Us Part 2, most of them were pretty negative. Although I feel like I was fair. If you go back and watch them, you'll see I never talked down about the gameplay. I never tried to take away any of the hard work that developers put into it. But I also was very heavy-handed and strong. I had very strong opinions about these leaks that I was seeing, and they were not good. And I think it's just, I got a lot of support for that as well. A lot of people agreed with me, but I think there's a lot of people who feel as though that if I change my tune at all from that I'm just going against my word, or I'm just saying what people want to hear, or I'm just being a Sony shill or whatever. And I understand that, but that might not be the case. And we're going to find out. I don't know. I mean, we're going to find out, guys, and I'm going to find out. And that's what's interesting to me, is like, what I'm most interested in is not the response I get from my viewership, because I already know it's going to be polarizing. If I come out and I say, wow, guys, I have to say, I actually love this game, I already know there's going to be a large group of people who are like, F you, man, how could you love this garbage? And if I say I can't stand, like, I kind of hate the game and I can't stand the story, I know there's going to be a large group of people who are like, oh, F you, man, how could you not love this game? You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be polarizing either way. I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. But at this point, what I'm most excited about is genuinely seeing how am I actually going to feel when I finish this game. So, hearing Neil Druckmann's comments just gets me all the more interested. So, True Witty, you're saying Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us 2 are the greatest looking games all generation. I mean, yeah, they are very visually impressive, I have to admit. Ep.18, you're saying, I was just yanking your chain. Also, I would have bought The Last of Us console if I hadn't gotten Death Stranding's last year instead. I should have waited. LOL, I heard PS4 Pros sound very loud with The Last of Us. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of people who have that problem where they want to get all of the limited edition consoles, but they can't. But yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about the fan noise. But thank you for that donation, iSiler. I really appreciate that. Excuse me. Let me see here. We have Cleans McKean. You're saying I'm gonna put a fan next to my PS4 Pro playing the game, dude. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to do the same thing. No joke, man. Got to keep the cooling in there. Got to find other ways to keep it cool. MBG, turning your PS4 upside down stops overheating. I don't know if I believe that. That sounds kind of dangerous to me, to be completely honest. But maybe it's true. We have Ethos. You're saying, unfortunately, people tend to associate things so close to their identity that if you say something negative about that thing, they take it as if you're saying something negative about them. Yeah, I understand that, and I fully understand that with a game like The Last of Us Part 2, that probably rings more true than a lot of other things. And, look, I want to go on a little tangent here, okay? And this is kind of... I don't want to say it's off topic, but because it is associated with this. I want to talk about review copies of games, all right? Because I have gotten some questions from people like, how come you didn't get a review copy of The Last of Us Part 2, or how come you didn't get a review copy of Death Stranding? I did try to get a review copy of Death Stranding. Sony never, they never responded. And at one point, I did try to reach out to see if I could potentially get a review copy for The Last of Us Part 2. Why I would do that, I don't know. It was very clear that was a game I was never going to get a review copy for. But the reason being, well, obviously, again, being completely transparent with you guys, the reason being is I would absolutely love to be able to get it out, like my actual review to you guys the day the game comes out. I know you guys would love to hear that. And we have a very, very generous donation from NES Ninja Skills. Thank you so much for that, buddy. You're saying use this or don't for the game, but this may take your anxiety down on playing The Last of Us. Hopefully your PS4 Pro won't die. I can promise you this, NES Ninja Skills. Well, first of all, thank you so much for that generous donation. I do plan, I will get the game, and, you're basically enabling me to not have an excuse to not get it, right? Like, obviously, money can't be an issue for that now. So thank you for that. And when it comes to the PS4 Pro dying, I promise you, even if my PlayStation 4 Pro literally overheats or breaks or something while I'm playing it, I'm not saying that I'm anticipating it, but you never know. I will still, I will literally go out there and buy another PlayStation, probably like a better model, if that's what I have to do, because obviously I'm going to need it to play Ghost of Tsushima as well. But thank you for that, buddy. That was a really nice thing of you to do. I really do appreciate that. Very generous of you. And I appreciate all of the super chats. Obviously I'm not trying to put anybody on a pedestal. At a time like this, it's anybody who donates anything really does mean a lot. I really appreciate that. We have Miles Dyer saying, keep up the great work, dude. Well, thank you. Thank you for that, buddy. I really appreciate that. Really means a lot. I genuinely appreciate all the support, guys. iSiler18, you're saying, I was thinking if The Last of Us happens to be in retail and the riots continue, we might see full spoilers daily, just giving everyone a heads up. Yeah, there's no doubt that I think as we get closer to the launch of the game, you're going to start to see more and more come out. And again, I'm so interested to see how this conversation is going to unfold with this game. I want to see if there's going to be a massive disconnect between reviewers and people who end up playing the game. We have KNG Owo. Hopefully I'm saying your name correctly. Have you cleaned your PS4? My PS4 Pro was loud too. Replaced the thermal paste with liquid metal. Cleaned out the dust. It was thick as carpet inside, and put vent covers on the sides. It's quiet now. I've tried my best to clean it out. I'm not willing to open up the console and do stuff to it. I think I'd literally just rather buy like a newer model that doesn't have that same fan issue. But I have tried to clean it out, and it helps a little bit, but honestly not too much. If I have to take, like, I do have it in my entertainment center, although my entertainment center has a lot of space, but if it really becomes that much of a problem, I will literally move it somewhere where I can actually have a fan blowing on it if that's what I have to do. As crazy as that sounds, but nothing's going to get in the way from me experiencing these upcoming games. And we also have True Witty saying, I did it and never thought it would work, but it did. Maybe I'll look into that. I don't know. Maybe I'll look into that. I don't know about the thermal paste thing. I don't know if that's a difficult thing to do or not, but I might have to look into it. But, yeah, thank you guys so much for showing your support here. It means a hell of a lot to me. And to just finish off this tangent, I wanted to go on here when it comes to reviews of games. I started to think that maybe I should try to get review copies of games, specifically like PlayStation games, because, it's a PlayStation-centric channel. And we also have Darkland22. You're saying, MBG, aka Morty, what would you do if Phil Spencer and Jim Ryan were arm wrestling in your house? I'd be filming it. I would be filming that, right? I'd live stream that. I'd be like, guys, for some reason, Phil Spencer and Jim Ryan, they decided to ignore social distancing to gather at my home to arm wrestle. And that would be a hell of a stream, wouldn't it? But that's what I would do. But thank you for that, buddy. But I've always kind of thought like maybe I should try to look into getting review copies. And again, I did try to get one for Death Stranding. I'm not going to lie to you. I was very surprised that I didn't get a review copy for Death Stranding. Not that I'm entitled to it at all, because I'm absolutely not entitled to anything. I don't want anybody to think that. I'm not saying that. I was just surprised because I felt like I was one of the only, not the only, but I was one of the few channels that was out here like really kind of hyping the game up and clearly very excited for it. And even defending it, like when the gameplay came out and people were like, oh, the gameplay's not good, and I was like, I don't know, it doesn't look that bad to me, and I think we have to give it a chance. I thought because of that, maybe Sony would have, been happy to have somebody like me review the game, not under the assumption that I was only going to say good things about it, but because the hype was really there, and that didn't happen. And we have Herms, you're saying during dev of the game, they test on overheating. Yeah, that's true. That is true. That's why I guess I'm not worried about it because, this is stuff when it comes to the heating of the game and it potentially overheating. They do test that out and they would clearly adjust it if it was going to melt. They probably tried on old PS4s, new PS4s, stuff like that. So that is a good point you bring up there. And we have a new member, Dusty Felice Emery Richmond. I don't know if I butchered your name, but I'll just call you Dusty. Thank you so much for becoming a member, choosing to go above and beyond. I hope you can look forward to your exclusive perks, and the same goes for all of my members. So welcome to all the new members that have joined today. You can look forward to your names being in the credits on next week's podcast. But, I did play... the point I'm trying to make here is I came across this video. I forget the name of the YouTuber, but he put it out not too long ago. I think he almost has like 1 million subscribers. And the title of the video, some of you may have seen it yourselves, was it basically was early reviews are corrupt, like game reviews are corrupt or something like that. And he was acknowledging or pointing out the fact that there seems to be like a disconnect. And Dusty, you're saying just joined as I like your honesty and willingness to give things a shot, enjoy your content. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. But he was saying that no matter which way you want to cut it, people who review games, people who get early review copies, by them getting special access to it, by them getting the benefit of being able to play it before anybody else and being able to potentially get their reviews out there and their content out there before anybody else, like, it inherently affects their psyche and how they're going to review the game. That doesn't mean that every single reviewer is suddenly going to say it's good, even if they think it's bad. That's not what that means. But he was basically saying that by somebody having to come out and say in advance, you can rest assured you're going to get the most honest review out of me possible, that already signals that thought was already, like, that it's already impacting their psyche. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has an indirect, for some people it has a direct effect. For others it has an indirect effect. And this made me come to a realization. Yeah, Ranton. There we go. That's the one. Yeah, I saw that video and I thought it was really good and it was really insightful. I mean, his content is interesting to say the least, but and it really got me thinking, like, how I don't think I ever want to be in that position. Now, obviously, that could change. That's easy for me to say that because nobody's currently offering me a review copy. If Sony offered me a review copy of Ghost of Tsushima, would I take it? I want to say there's a high probability I would take it. However, I do want to acknowledge that I've been having this thought where, I think I might just stop trying to ever pursue the idea of reviewing things early. And I know that maybe that may negatively impact me, in the sense that, oh, well, by the time you talk about it or get your reviews out, it might be less relevant and stuff like that. But at the same time, I just think, like, I don't know that matters to me as much as just ensuring that when I play a game, I mean, maybe I'm just the type of person, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just the type of person that if I ever were to get review copies, I don't want to say it would impact me and make me suddenly feel like, oh, I have to say good things about it. No, but it just feels like there's this added layer of, like, grossness to it, where it's like, I don't know, man, like, I just want to play games, and if I play a game and I actually think it's like, man, this game is shit. Like, this game is actual shit. But I was given a review copy. It would feel a little bit difficult for me to be that hard on the game. Like, I would instinctively feel like, well, they gave me a review copy, so maybe I shouldn't call it shit. Maybe I should just say it's not very good. You know what I'm saying? To where it's like, if I pay for the game myself, if I buy the game myself, I don't know. I just feel more comfortable doing that because I just feel like, if this game is shit and I just paid money for shit, I have absolutely no problem saying I just paid money for what to me feels like shit. Not that I'm saying that I would feel that way about Sony's games because they look very good and I'm extremely excited for them. But I'm just going on this tangent because it's just like, I don't know, man. We have Mr. Hamster, thank you, buddy. You're saying Junior Jackson brought up a cool idea earlier. How about you bring I think you meant to say guest from your mods or member to that monthly MBG and Friends gameplay video. Yeah, maybe that is something I could do. We'll see about that. I don't want to make any executive decision on the spot live while I'm streaming, but that's something I could look into. What I will let you guys know is I have been thinking about other things I can do as well in the future going forward. I just want to make sure I don't bite off more than I can chew and can't deliver on my promises. But that is a pretty good idea, and I'll definitely consider that, and we'll see if we can do maybe something like that in the future. The only problem with that, I feel, is that, as the members grow and as there's more and more members, I feel like, even if I were to pull a name out of a hat type of situation and bring somebody on, there's a lot of other people who may never get called on or may never be able to become a guest in that, and I just feel like they may feel like it's a little bit unfair, you know what I mean? But I don't know. We'll think about it. We'll see if we can do something in the future, but I do appreciate that, guys. And so just to end this little tangent before we move on to the final topic here, again, I'm not saying that I would never take a review copy, and I know it's easy for me to say that as somebody who's never been offered a review copy, but I just saw that video and it did make me think how, like, I mean, I can still make content. Like, for example, when The Last of Us Part 2 review embargo lifts, in a way, I kind of feel like maybe it's better that I don't have to put my review out there day one, because instead I can talk about what everybody else is seeing day one, which is, let's talk about what people are saying about it. And then after that, I can talk about how I feel about it. You know what I mean? Like, I can actually experience it and alongside everybody else, and we can all kind of go through it together. And it also does make it easier to talk about spoilers and stuff like that. So I don't know. I guess I'm just mentioning this because it just got me thinking, and it made me realize, like, I don't know. I do appreciate review scores, and I do appreciate seeing a Metacritic score, and I think it does hold some weight and some value, but at the end of the day, I just don't know how much it really matters. And I see Mr. Hamster saying, give me my merch already. Give me my MBG merch, man. And I want to let you know I'm still working on that. I'm going to try my best to give a time frame, but don't hold me to it if it ends up getting delayed. My goal is to try to have merch up on my channel sometime in July. I want to say around the time Ghost of Tsushima launches. I don't know if I can't lock that in. Don't hold me to that, but that's what I'm shooting for as of right now. Chris B, you're saying that's why transparency and disclosure is important, like Digital Foundry being flown out by Microsoft. As long as we know, we can be informed media consumers. I 100% agree, man. I'm not trying to insinuate that people lie or anything like that, but it's just, if I were to have a choice to listen to a review from two people, like let's just say there's two alternate realities. There's of a highly respected individual within the game's media, or somebody who is known to be a good reviewer, right? If I had to choose between the two alternate realities, I could listen to their review from their review copy, like they were given a review copy and they played it, versus I could listen to them, they never got a review copy and they had to pay their own money out of pocket and play it within their own time, and there was no incentive for them to try to get their review out as quickly as possible. I'm going to choose that one because I just feel like inherently it's just going to be more genuine. I mean, what they say about it, like their overall thoughts, may not differ that much, or it might. We really don't know. And I guess I'm just saying, like, when it comes to the reviews for The Last of Us, I'm going to be paying attention to them. We're going to be talking about it. But in this case, I just don't know it's going to matter that much to me. I mean, if it gets like a 97 on Metacritic, of course we're going to talk about that and be like, holy shit, that's insane. If it gets like a 63 or something somehow, then yeah, we're going to talk about that as well. But is it going to impact how I'm going into this game? Maybe it's because I've been exposed to the leaks and my view on it is altered because of that. In a way, being exposed to those leaks has completely removed, my feeling towards a review of this game, I guess. And so, I don't know, man. True Witty, you're saying call on to members and have a members gamer talk. Yeah, maybe we could do something like that. It would be a little bit difficult to set up, but again, we'll see what we can do. I'm going to have to put a lot of thought into this because I know that some of my members want to try to be even more involved, but it's a fine line to walk, and so we'll see as we go forward. But first of all, before we move on to the next topic, because I just ranted way too long there, I apologize. This podcast is going to end up being way too long. We have hit over 1,000 likes, so thank you guys so much for that. That was the goal I set out for the podcast, and you guys absolutely crushed it. Thank you so much for that. Your support is so greatly appreciated. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I just want to make sure that I'm acknowledging the support you guys are showing here. Clearly, we still have over 1,300 people watching, so if you want to contribute to that and hit the like button, feel free to do so. We are going to move on to the next topic here, though, and this one has to do with Phil Spencer making some comments about how they're going to show off next-gen games and stuff like that. So, also, one last final thing I want to say here. I don't mean to sound like condescending. I want anybody listening to this to understand that I am absolutely not trying to take crap on people who get review copies and review games. There's a lot of people I actually highly respect that do most of the time, and they put out early reviews. I just want you to understand I'm not trying to do that. It's not like I'm trying to call anybody out or saying that anybody who gets a review copy is a fraud. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying I saw this content. It made me think, and I just wanted to relay it to you guys and kind of see what you think as well. So if you agree or disagree with it. But anyway, talking about Phil Spencer, it says Phil Spencer recently talked about the struggle of, quote, showing, unquote, how big of a leap next gen really is. He was recently featured on the Talking Games podcast, and he said that they can talk all they want, they can show all they want. In the end, it's no substitute for feeling it for yourself. He also said that, quote, one of the things I've talked about publicly, but it's hard to come across, is the way it feels to play games on a box where frame rates are higher. Frame rates are more stable. He goes on to say the fluidity of it, the showing that in video form, it's just impossible. How do you show how something feels? And it continues on here. We're getting to the point where the immersion feel that you get through fluidity and other things is now up to par with the visual capabilities that we have. How do we share that with people in this kind of world? This is my thoughts on what Phil Spencer said. That's where the quote ended. While I do agree with what he's saying, it does also come across somewhat like he's making excuses to me if a game looks impressive, it looks impressive, and it certainly doesn't always come down to how pretty or how smooth that game actually is through a live stream. A lot of the time it comes down to just how fun or awesome the game looks to play. However, I do agree that this seems to be a potential struggle for both Sony and Microsoft going into this holiday season, and it makes me wonder if Sony will feel that they have the same problem. It's nice to hear Phil is expecting most games, at least based off of what he's saying, to run at 60 FPS, but finally, I just have to say that this does seem maybe like a little bit, maybe a tad bit of damage control from their first, quote, gameplay showcase, unquote, event, and I hope it doesn't have the same outlook, or he doesn't have the same outlook when it comes to their July game showcase. And so I brought up a couple questions here. I said, do you agree with Phil Spencer, and do you think he's missing the point a bit when it comes to what gets gamers excited when we see these events? I said, when we are watching these events, what is the thing that leaves you feeling most impressed or excited about what you just saw? And I'm bringing this up because I genuinely feel that while, yes, it's important that when we see these games revealed through live streams, you want to see them in the highest possible quality that you can. At the same time, though, I do feel like this is a little bit of damage control. True Witty, you're saying 49 Xbox fans are not happy with you, and you see the dislikes. Yeah, there's always going to be dislikes. It's perfectly fine. I don't expect everybody to agree or like my content, and that's fine. It's just the way things are. But thank you for that, buddy. But I think this is just a little bit of damage control because I really want to know what you guys have to say in the chat. Like, I really need to know, because I haven't really talked to anybody else about this. Is it just me when I say that, like, if I watch an event, if I watch an Xbox event, a PlayStation event, whatever gaming event, right, and I know new games are going to be shown off, and I know it's going to be streamed, I already anticipate that it's probably going to look like ass, right? Like, it's probably not going to look that great. But the thing that's going to leave me excited is how good does the game look from a gameplay perspective? Like, does this game get me hyped? Does the presentation get me hyped? Does the story sound interesting? Does it look like a mature-themed game? Does it look like a not-so-mature-themed game? What about the mechanics of the game? You know, what about just to see a 10-minute gameplay chunk? I don't have to see it in 60 FPS to know it's probably going to be an awesome game, right? Like, is that just me? But Spooky Z, you're saying that's the thing with reviews. These guys got to get them out ASAP. Less time to really enjoy the game. That's another thing, Spooky Z, just to kind of touch on that. That's another reason why I would feel a great pressure if I was given a review copy like, oh shit, like I have to get this out, you know, by the time this game releases. And it would make me feel like I have to kind of like pressure myself. I wouldn't have to, of course, but it would be there. The pressure would be there, right? It would feel like an obligation, like I have to complete this game by the time the game launches, right? And so I do agree, it probably does leave a little bit less time. Although maybe professional reviewers who've been doing this for years, maybe they have a formula. Like they, you know, and if you enjoy a game enough, I guess maybe you'll just want to keep playing it, right? True Witty, you're saying that's what Phil said about Crackdown. It was fun. Yeah, I mean, look, I just feel like when we see this Sony event, right? I don't expect... here's the best example I can use. When I saw the Unreal Engine 5 demo, I knew when I was watching it being like the live stream of it that this is not like the true quality that like I could tell based off what I saw, like, wow, this looks pretty good, but I can already tell because this is a stream that this is going to look a hell of a lot better once I can watch the full video. You know what I'm saying? And I just feel like at this point, I feel like hearing these comments from Phil Spencer, it doesn't make me feel too good because it's like, dude, like, I get that. Like, I get that that's going to be a struggle for both you and Sony, but you have to understand that if you show good shit at your show, it doesn't matter if it's 12 frames per second. People are going to see that it's good shit. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean to swear. I apologize I'm swearing. I try not to do that much on the channel, but, you know, I just feel like Sony isn't making that excuse, you know, and I highly doubt they would make that excuse if people walk away saying like, wow, that stream was really, yeah. And here's the thing, like, you could also say to people, you could always watch it after the fact in its full form. It's like watching these state of plays. Do you see Sony saying, oh, well, we're afraid that the quality of The Last of Us and how good The Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima looked didn't really come through our stated plays, and, it's just really difficult to show. No, they're not making those excuses. They're not saying that because they understand that, first of all, what they're showing through a stream, even though the stream could be choppy, even though the frame rate could be terrible, even though the resolution could be terrible and it's completely compressed, right? People still know that what they're seeing from this game looks pretty damn good. And they also know that when they watch it after the fact in 4K, they're going to see it in its full form. And so, I don't know, I guess I'm just going on this tangent because I just feel like I'm tired of hearing this crap from Microsoft where it's like, just admit your first showcase was not very good and you could have done a lot better. And I understand that a lot of people were harping on them. I don't want to completely blame Microsoft. We do have to understand that there was a pretty good chunk of people who were saying this looked terrible and, the frame rate was terrible. This doesn't look next gen. And I get that. But to be fair, a lot of people were also saying the same things during the Ghost of Tsushima and, Last of Us stated plays where there's a lot of people complaining about the frame rates and saying it looks terrible. And they're still saying that for some reason. And it's going to happen, and people are going to continue to say the same thing for the PS5 event. But, Phil, what I guess I'm just trying to say, Phil, if you're listening, which I know you're not, what I'm trying to say is don't have that mentality going into your July event or whenever you're going to show off new games. The mentality you should have is if our content is good enough, and we show it during a stream, we don't have to worry about the quality of the stream. Let's try to make the quality as best we can, obviously. But people are rational. They're going to understand it's a stream. They're going to understand it's not going to be perfect and it's not going to be fully indicative of the final product. But to me it just shows that they don't have confidence, and I don't want to hear that, man. Don't try to focus on showing people, hey, look, this is 60 FPS. People are going to love to hear it. If you say the game's 60 FPS, they don't care what it looks like on the stream. They're going to be like, okay, the game's 60 FPS, awesome, right? Don't focus on trying to show the frame rate. Focus on just showing the damn game and let it speak for itself, And if it doesn't look as great through the stream, no big deal. People are going to see the trailers. People are going to see the gameplay after the stream's done. Let it speak for itself. True Witty, you're saying, I'm sorry, but Xbox is not filling me with confidence. Exactly. You put it perfectly. Phil, I know, Phil just sometimes says these things, and I'm just like, dude, please just stop. Between you and Aaron Greenberg, for God's sakes, Mike Ybarra, a former Xbox executive, somebody who's actually directly responsible for a lot of what the Xbox Series X is, recently came out and said that he likes the approach Sony's taking better. Now, something tells me that, he's been feeling that way for quite some time, but he could never say it when working at Xbox, and he's probably looking at these guys what are you doing? Chris B., you're saying CD Projekt Red, Epic, and Sony seem to be very confident in their game offerings and showings. Exactly, Chris. That's the thing. Phil, I want you to come out here. What you should have said is, while we may have a challenge in trying to show how good these games are going to feel by offering higher frame rates, gamers can rest assured that they will get better frame rates. And while that will be a challenge to show, we are still very confident in what we will show will be very exciting, and people will walk away feeling relatively impressed. That's how you say it. And I know Phil isn't the marketing guy, but for a guy who's not the marketing guy, he sure does talk a lot. And he talks very candidly and openly, and I like that. But with that, and trust me, I know this better than anybody else, as it's what I do almost every day, sometimes you're going to say some dumb shit and people got to call you out. But Phil, it just seems like you consistently say these things where it's just hype up your event, man. And if you do that, give people confidence. Ep.18, you decided to become a member. Thank you for that, buddy. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you going above and beyond to support me here directly. Look forward to your exclusive perks. And as usual, I have to thank all of my members for going above and beyond. So thanks, buddy. Let me take another drink here, and we are going to finish off this podcast. Luckily, my voice is, I think it's doing a little bit better today. Maybe I'm getting used to it, or if maybe I just didn't, scream too much, even though I feel like I'm screaming now. But Anyway, as usual, we are going to move on to the final topic of the show, which is general and random gaming news and info, and then we will finish it off with a short Q&A. Well, I will try my best to acknowledge as many people as I can in the chat. You know, I appreciate all of the super chats. You guys know that, but I also want to just take some time because I know not everybody can. I know not everybody can donate a super chat to, you know, for me to interact with them. So I try to dedicate a little bit of time there, though. But well, let me start now. You're saying MBG. Sony never said that, though. Sony isn't confident enough to say that the games will be flawlessly emulated. Hence why Sony said we hope. We think a lot during the event. Yeah, but the thing is, though, like, they're also not coming out here saying, like, we can't really show you. I mean, look, Sony, they're very precise in the way they talk. All I'm saying is I think Microsoft could benefit by, I know it sounds, you know, they're all about being open and transparent, and I'm all about that as well, but I hate to admit it, but maybe in this case, be more precise in what you're saying and how you're saying it and the wording you're using. Because how you say something, it's not usually what you say, it's how you say it. And that's so important in marketing, right? Like, that's the most important thing in marketing. It's not what you say, like, oh, greatness awaits. Like, what? What does that mean? It's how you say it. It's how you convey it. Greatness awaits, right? Like, I know that sounds a little ridiculous to some people, but I'm telling you, it's marketing 101, you know, for the players. You know, for the players. Something as simple as that. What does that even mean? Okay, Xbox's own marketing. Jump in. Jump in. Jump in. Like, what does that mean? But when you say jump in. I know this sounds completely ridiculous because it just sounds like I'm saying the same things, but I promise you, like, people in marketing, people who market, they know this all too well. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, and it's how you convey it. So maybe I didn't use the best examples there, but I think my earlier example was a lot better. So you could tell I've been talking for way too long, nonstop. So anyway, we're going to finish this off with the random game news and info. So let's get into it. Starting here, PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan believes that game development cost will likely increase going into next generation, but he also doesn't see the increase being too extreme. It just makes sense as games will continue to get bigger and become more detailed. I wanted to mention that because I think this is something we're all well aware of. We all know that Sony's going to hire you to use your voiceover in their commercials. Hey, that'd be great. No problems there. But I think we all expected this. Jim Ryan is just acknowledging the obvious that because technology is becoming more advanced, games are going to get bigger, they're going to get better, they're going to become more detailed. It's going to be more expensive, but he doesn't think it's going to be extreme. And he did also touch on how this is going to potentially impact game development. Like, does this mean we're going to see less games less often because of this? But he said that basically he believes as long as the uptake in these new consoles, specifically the PS5, as long as it's great enough and good enough and fast enough, their teams, based off of their pipeline that they have, and I'm hugely paraphrasing right now, but essentially what he said is that no, they think that they have enough content, they have enough studios, they have enough talent, and as long as they manage it correctly and there's a good uptake in the PS5, the content will continue to flow in a very efficient way. So that's really reassuring to me. So even though these games could become more expensive, get bigger budgets, obviously games are going to take more time, but if they manage it properly, we shouldn't notice any major difference, right? So moving on from that, there was a leak, and I saw people talking about this, and I had to take some time to acknowledge this. There was a leak stemming from 4chan claiming that Red Dead Redemption 1 is getting remade in the Red Dead Redemption 2 engine and will be released in 2021 at some point. This hyped a lot of people up, but it was quickly shot down by a former leaker named Yan2295, who used to correctly leak a lot of info about Rockstar games. For those wondering why we should believe this leaker over the random 4chan post, is because apparently Rockstar actually requested that this individual, this leaker Yan2295, stop talking about GTA Online, as they were seemingly always accurately and correctly leaking information out. So he's pretty much saying, look, he doesn't know why this is gaining traction, and there was a lot of people expressing a lot of excitement for it, because yes, that would be an exciting thing for sure, to hold us over till GTA 6, but he's pretty much saying, don't believe it, and because it's stemming from a 4chan post, I'm also going to agree with this individual and say, I wouldn't buy into it. So, had to acknowledge that. According to Techland, Dying Light 2 is in its last stretch of development. After the indefinite delay and reports of internal strife, many fans became concerned However, during a recent interview, Dying Light 2's lead game designer gave an update, and this is what they said. There's a whole team at Techland that works on the announcement of the release date for the game and every piece of info that accompanies it, and I know they want to surprise players. So I don't want to spoil it for them or our community. The only thing I can say is that please trust us. It's in its last stretch for this project, and we need your support. So, to me, if I'm reading what he's saying correctly, what he's trying to hint at is that it sounds like they're going to announce a release date soon, but when they do, it sounds like the release date is going to be a little bit surprising. And for me, I'm taking this as they're going to announce a release date, and that release date is going to be literally maybe like 2 or 3 months away from when they actually announce it, maybe even sooner. That's what I got from that. But it's good to hear that they are in the final stretch of development. I'm very much looking forward to Dying Light 2, and I know that a lot of people were very concerned because of recent reports and the out-of-nowhere indefinite delay. But it sounds like everything's going smoothly. Hopefully, we get this game sooner rather than later, and it's awesome. But moving on from that, Microsoft has confirmed that the Xbox Series X will have a simultaneous launch in Japan this holiday, and that games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Scarlet Nexus, Bright Memory Infinite, and Halo Infinite will also be available at launch. So there you go. They're doing the same thing Sony is. Simultaneous. Well, actually, I don't know if it's been confirmed that Microsoft is doing a simultaneous worldwide launch, but they did confirm it will release in Japan at the same day, or on the same day. I don't know if that's going to matter. I really don't think that they're going to make that big of a splash, unfortunately. But apparently there's also a new update to the Xbox Store that completely overhauls it, going for a much cleaner, simpler look. I haven't personally seen it myself, but this started as rumor, but at this point it is confirmed. So I'm not going too in-depth here, just trying to relay the news to you guys. Here's a good one. You ready for this? Sega's big announcement that was hyped up last week, big time. It was confirmed that it's a new console, the Game Gear Micro. And I looked into this, and I don't care. I'm just going to be real. I don't even know what that... It just looks so unappealing to me. I'm just like, this looks gimmicky. This looks ridiculous. But apparently the announcement was also for our favorite thing, guys. You ready? Our favorite thing, their Fog Cloud gaming service. And to be honest, I didn't even look into this cloud gaming service. I don't know if this is like a legitimate service that's going to compete with xCloud, or if this is actually something that... I remember reading something briefly about arcade games. I know I should know this because I'm the one relaying the news to you guys, but that's how little I cared about it. I don't know if it's like this Fog Cloud Gaming is for their arcades. I don't know. Maybe somebody in the chat can let me know. But either way, I think it's safe to say this announcement was a big dud. It was really being hyped up, and it was really a whole lot of nothing, in my opinion, just being real. I don't mean to be so harsh, but... And to anybody who's currently leaving the stream, thank you for showing up. I appreciate you being here. I know some people can't hang this long, and that's totally understandable. I don't mean to take up so much of your time, but thank you for anybody who showed up. It has to go. Finishing up here, Resident Evil 8 will feature a new playable character alongside Ethan, and her name is Emily, and she lives in the mountains where Resident Evil 8 is supposed to take place. She's in her 20s, and she is searching for her missing father, and she ends up working with Ethan because of that. It also seems very likely that Resident Evil 8 will be revealed officially for the first time at this upcoming PlayStation 5 event. It's just arcade streaming is what you're saying, Fran77. So yeah, so at that point it literally wasn't even worth mentioning, so... blast them, MBG. Roast them. Yeah. I'll see you, Ultra Lynch, and goodbye to everybody who is departing. But moving on from that, the original director of Resident Evil 4, Shinji Mikami, recently spoke about the upcoming remake for the first time, and he said as long as it turns out good, he has no issue with it. He also said that he saw what they did with Resident Evil 2 Remake, and he thought that it was really good, so it sounds like he does have some confidence. But it sounds like he will only be upset about it if they butcher it or destroy it or make people suddenly hate it. Well-known Resident Evil insider Dusk Golem also revealed that the Resident Evil Remake has a much larger development team behind it than the last two remakes, a clear sign that Capcom is going all in with it, which is exciting to me. To be honest, I'm all for Resident Evil 4 Remake. The reason being is if they screw it up, then who cares? We still have the original, right? So I'd rather have it than not have it at all, even if they screw it up. Obviously, I hope they don't. But it sounds like they have a massive team working on it, which does give me a lot more confidence. So, and Shinji Mikami also shared a few new details about his upcoming horror game, Ghostwire Tokyo, describing it as a completely new type of game, and adding that it's been in pre-production for years, but that everything is going smoothly. This is what he said exactly. Ghostwire Tokyo is a completely new type of game, so I really hope people look forward to it. We started with the idea. The director, Ikumi Nakamura, I don't think she's with them any longer, though, had the idea that she wanted to make. The initial team started out about 5 people, and we worked on it for 6 months, and then we expanded to 10 people, and we worked on it for a few years before it went into full production. So that's very interesting that they have a very small team, it sounds like. But that is a game that I'm interested in seeing for sure. He also goes on to say this is probably the longest I've taken on any game I've made in the past. I came on to assist the team around the beginning of 2019. So, I mean, it sounds like it's definitely had some production issues, but everything is now going smoothly. And it's a game I'm very much interested in. It looks really bizarre. It looks, it's a horror game basically. So I'm excited for that. But we also have a leak for Call of Duty 2020. I did see somebody earlier in the chat. They were asking if there's any update on Call of Duty. If you're still here, here's your Call of Duty update. Before we do that, though, David, you're saying, I'm thinking about trying out PlayStation Now just to visit a few old nostalgic titles. Well, go for it, man. I personally have not tried out PlayStation Now yet. A lot of people have told me they think I should, and I should probably do a review on it. They're probably right. I probably will at some point, but let me know how it goes for you. If you try it out this week, I'll hope to see you on the podcast next week, and maybe you can let me know what your experience was like, and I can live vicariously through you that way temporarily until I eventually try it out myself. So, but yeah, go for it, man. Let me know what games you end up playing too. But talking about Call of Duty, apparently early development gameplay footage of Call of Duty 2020 Cold War, that's the name of the game, has been leaked out, and it looks very similar to the new Modern Warfare 2019. It looks very similar to the engine that they've used in their game. Some fans are happy about this. Other fans are not so happy about this. Now, I haven't followed the Call of Duty community nearly as closely in recent years, but it seems to me that people like the engine that was used in Modern Warfare because it feels more modern, it feels updated, it feels a little bit more realistic, but they don't like things such as the doors, opening the doors, maps having a crap ton of doors all around them. They don't like the it's not the lean mechanic, but I think it's like I forget what the mechanic's called. It's just slipping my mind, but where you basically click a button when you're near a corner or an edge, and you just like kind of put your gun down on it, and it gives you basically zero recoil, and it makes your gun a laser beam. People hate that. I think it's mounting. That's what it's called. They hate the mounting mechanic, and this is what people are worried about. It seems like these mechanics may be returning. The doors, we don't know. We have to see the maps first, but the mounting mechanic is something that a lot of people seem to be not happy with, and they don't want to see it return, but it sounds like this is essentially going to be a reboot. I don't want to say it's going to be a Black Ops reboot. Apparently it's going to be called Black Ops, but it sounds like it's going to essentially be the equivalent of what this Modern Warfare reboot was in 2019, except in 2020 it's going to be a reboot of Black Ops, which I loved Black Ops 1. I loved most of the Black Ops games, but Black Ops 1 in particular, I absolutely loved, and so I will for sure be checking this out. I have a very, very good feeling we're going to see this game announced alongside the PlayStation 5 event. Darkland 2020, you're saying, or 22, sorry. You're saying you camping out for the PS5? I don't plan to have to camp out. Like, my hope is that I can order it on Amazon or a website like through Best Buy or GameStop and secure mine and just have it delivered. Guys, I will do whatever the hell I have to do to get a PS5 day one. I would not be able to feel okay with myself if I run a YouTube channel that's PlayStation centric and I can't get their new console day one. I will do what I have to do, man. So, Mr. Hamster, I'm gonna need you to remove that if you can. If that's a real link to the gameplay, if you could remove that for me, simply because, don't want to get in any type of trouble. I'm going to have to, Mr. Hamster, I'm going to have to ask you to mod yourself right now. As ridiculous as that sounds. But yeah, if you could do that for me. Just because I don't know. I don't know. I'm assuming it'll be okay, but just to be on the safe side. But the final piece of information I have here is Destiny 2's next expansion is set to be revealed on June 9th. It seems like it will be pretty significant. So if you are a Destiny fan, you'll likely want to tune in. So there you go. But yeah, that's pretty much all of this. No, it's no problem, Mr. Hamster. I've just seen some other YouTubers saying that like they've gotten in trouble for linking that stuff. I've seen it myself. I think everybody's seen it, but Activision, they're very finicky with that stuff. So I highly doubt anything will come of it. But you better not have ruined my podcast, Mr. Hamster. I'll be really upset with you. No, it'll be okay, but it should be. Brandon's Legion, you're saying rumor is the PS5 launch title will be remasters. That'll suck, honestly. I think there will be some remasters, but I think it's completely unrealistic and frankly unfounded to assume that that's going to be all Sony's going to have. Like, listen, they have to have at least one or two titles that are brand new launch titles. There's just no way. Sony's not dumb. They're not dumb, and never in as far as I know, never in the history of any console launch have they ever done something like that. You know what I mean? I don't recall them ever doing something like that, and I don't think they would, and they certainly would not do something like that knowing that Microsoft is going to have Halo Infinite as a next-gen launch title. So I wouldn't believe that, honestly. No, Mr. Hamster's not in trouble, guys. It's not that serious. It's just to play it safe. But yes, I mean, if you guys want to go find that footage, you can probably find it, the Call of Duty footage, and it looks a lot like Modern Warfare 2019. Just it's super early footage too, so it's understandable why Activision doesn't want it out. But I do think that Sony will have a lot of games. I don't want to say that they're going to have a lot of launch titles. Like, I wouldn't expect them to have like more than 2 or 3 titles at launch, like new titles that are not remasters or remakes. But I don't see them, basically going all in with that. I just don't see that. But MH, you're saying have reserved a PlayStation 5, picking it up in store, and I hope I don't have to pay the placeholder price of $1,000. Yeah, as far as I know, like pre-orders are not. I mean, I don't know what store you're talking about, but as far as I know, they're not taking pre-orders yet. Like they're taking like they'll take your email and stuff, so they'll let you know when it goes on the pre-order. And we have True Witty. You're saying I already got PlayStation Now. It works well. It's not bad. Yeah, that's what I've heard. I heard PlayStation Now is actually pretty solid. So, all right, guys, the podcast is already running on 2.5 hours, so I'm going to take at least a couple minutes here to interact with the chat a little bit. Yeah, if you have any questions for me, I would recommend trying to type MBG in there so I can try to acknowledge them. I simply will not be able to get to all of them, most likely, but if there's any questions you've been saving or holding off, now is the time to ask them, or if you just want to, chat at all, we'll do that. I'm going to take another drink here, and then we'll end this podcast. This is a really, really huge, successful podcast. Thank you guys so much. MBG, do you think we will play as the son, Atreus, in the God of War sequel? I think there's a good chance we will at some point. Maybe not the whole game, but I would expect that. It also it depends on how old. I think we can assume Atreus will be older, right? Maybe not. Let's see. I'm hoping they show some good stuff, what we can expect on Serious Next Gen. Yeah, and then they can close with Demon Souls. Dude, I'm so pumped for Demon Souls, man. Like you guys have no idea. I wish there was more hype for that game. Maybe it's just because I don't know. A lot of people did play it and I didn't, but I wish there was more hype for the Demon Souls remake. MBG, do you have a Discord? I do not have a Discord. It's clear at some point in the future I might have to make a Discord because a lot of people have been asking me to do that. I'm just not too familiar with Discord. I don't really use it that much. But MBG, have you ever been in a fight before? Did you win or lose? No, I've never been in like a legitimate like fight, like squaring up, like somebody's going down here. It's always just been like sucker punching me or some shit, or just like little like wrestle fights that maybe got a little bit more serious than they should have, but then we realized, wait, this is getting serious, let's stop. But I've never like actually like Like me and you, like we're throwing down right here, you know. And if I did, it's clearly blocked out of my memory and I can't remember it. MBG, let me borrow a fan. Sorry, can't, buddy. Mr. Hamster, you're asking, when is the member-only video happening this month? Okay, so for members who are here listening, my goal is to the members-only live stream. Actually, I'm going to check the calendar right now, so maybe I can tell you exactly what day. Just hang tight 1 second while I check this out. No, that's my calculator. Hold on, I'm messing this all up here. Let me check the calendar. So I just want to tell you, because it's going to be... Okay, so it's going to be on June 30th. June 30th is on a Tuesday. That's when we will be doing the members-only live stream. When it comes to me getting MBG and Friends game club out for The Last of Us, I want to have it out before the end of June, but that's why it's going to be broken up into 2 parts. I'll probably give you my thoughts. We'll talk about what we've played, probably the first 8 to 10 hours of The Last of Us so far, and talk about it, and then we'll do a second game club not too long after, whenever we beat it. Let me see here. MBG, what game would you like to see rebooted for the PS5? I don't know. I'll ask you guys that, because my brain's a little bit fried right now. I can't even think properly. MBG, I want to say Metal Gear. I think Metal Gear could get a reboot, right? I'd be cool with that. MBG, which PS4 exclusive is best in your opinion? It's hard for me not to say Bloodborne. I just think Bloodborne's so damn impressive. But God of War, maybe because I played it recently again, it's so damn good. MBG, there was a video about the PS4 final design. It's I'm assuming you meant PlayStation 5. It's like a plain hanger type. I don't know about that. Let's see. MBG, do you think Sony is putting their games on PC will bring doubt about Sony plans in the future when it comes to PS5 exclusives? It will. Yes, that's a good question, actually, Devil Shooter. It will bring doubt. People will be like, oh, well, I guess there's no reason for me to buy a PS5, because if they're putting PS4 exclusives on PC, then they're eventually going to put PS5 exclusives on PC, until they realize after 1, 2, 3 years goes by, and then you suddenly realize, wait, Sony's not actually putting their PS5 exclusives on PC. If Sony were to put their PS5 exclusives on PC, it's going to be way down the line. That's my assumption. I don't know that for sure, but... MBG, do you think we will see Silent Hills revived? 100%. I do. I think we will. JD Bear, you're saying, thanks for another great podcast, MBG. See you next time. Well, thanks, buddy. I'm glad you could show up. It was a good time. Thank you guys for making it such an awesome podcast as well. Couldn't do it without you, literally. MBG, what price would you be most comfortable paying for the PS5 given the spec sheet? I'd be perfectly fine with $500. I mean, if it was anything less, that's great. Sure, I could save some money, but perfectly fine with $500. MBG, SOCOM or Metal Gear Solid 4? I don't know if you're asking, which one I like better. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 4 is one of my all-time favorite games. When it comes to SOCOM, I would absolutely love to see a SOCOM make it to PS5, a reboot. MBG, could Bloodborne Remastered be a PS5 bundle? It very well could be. Damn, that would look so good, right? It just looked good. Could you imagine PS5 Bloodborne Remastered bundle? Maybe PS5 bundle with Demon's Souls Remake and Bloodborne Remastered. However, I promise you Sony's not going to do any bundles at the launch of a console. They never do. They want to sell the software. Launch games sell really well, so you're not going to see any bundles. We might, but I doubt it. What's your Snap? I actually don't use Snapchat. Let me see. Spooky Z, you're saying remake Legend of Dragoon, damn it. Yeah, a lot of people are holding out hope for that. I don't think it's going to happen, though. Just being honest. Let's see. MBG, have you played Days Gone? Yeah, of course I have. I actually have a lot of content on my channel. You can go back and check about Days Gone. Really, really loved my time with Days Gone. Can't wait to see what Sony Bend reveals for the PlayStation 5. MBG, why does Sony have no good exclusive multiplayer games? They're working on it. Trust me. Mark my words. Sony is they're going to continue to do what they do best with their single-player games, but they're certainly working on their weakness, which is their multiplayer/co-op games. They're working on it. Don't worry. Do I think Horizon Zero Dawn 2 will be in the event? 100% yes. You will see Horizon to some capacity. Well, okay, you will see Guerrilla Games to some capacity. That's what I'm going to say for sure. What is the price for the PS5? You think that $399 is the most logical? I'm going to be real with you right now, man. Do not expect a $399 PS5 based off of everything we know so far. Don't expect that. MBG Resistance and MGS4 remake is what I want. Yeah, we've heard about maybe a Resistance collection. Maybe we could see that. MBG Hellblade 2 will come to PS5. I highly doubt that. MBG, I'm stoked for Deadly Premonition 2. Did you play the first game? I have not, unfortunately. MBG, are you on TikTok? Absolutely not. MBG talked about Linus already. I did. Unfortunately, you're going to have to watch the podcast once it's done rendering and it's fully uploaded to YouTube, but we did talk extensively about it. MBG, do you think a new Jack game is coming? Great video. I don't think so. Just being honest, I don't think so. MBG, what do you think about the boost effect on PS4 owned games? I think it's awesome, and I hope that we see as many games as possible take advantage of it. Mr. Hamster, you're saying Guerrilla Games has an event this month. I think you're thinking of the Guerrilla Initiative or something like that. I think that's completely separate from Sony's Guerrilla Games, if I'm not mistaken. But we have David, you're saying The Last of Us had an amazing multiplayer mode, very difficult, but was fun as well. I did dabble in that a little bit, and it was really good. It was better than I expected. I kind of sucked at it, but I am extremely excited to see Naughty Dog, and I'm not saying we're going to see it at the PS5 event. We might, but I'm very excited to see when they announce this secret multiplayer game that they are working on, and it will be standalone. So look forward to that. But yeah, I agree, man. Spooky Z, you're saying even just a port, a remaster in 4K 60, all 6 God of War in a package would be super sweet. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people would love that, but it's hard to say. I mean, they only have so many resources and so many teams, and that they can dedicate to remastering stuff. You have to strike a good balance. We have to make sure there's teams working on new stuff, more teams working on new stuff, and some teams working on old stuff. This is why I think Sony will acquire Blue Point Games, because it just makes sense. Sony has a massive back catalog that they can continue to remaster and remake. MBG, do you have an Instagram? I do not. I'm pretty much, for me, it's just YouTube and Twitter, honestly. I'd like to keep it pretty simple. MBG, do you think Starhawk is coming back to PS5? That would be interesting, wouldn't it? I wouldn't anticipate it, but it would be interesting. Somebody else asked if I had it. Yeah, I think I already answered that one. What do you think should be an ideal price for a Bloodborne remake? I think $20. But I don't know, man. That's unlikely. If Sony really does have a Bloodborne remake and they're going to release it for PS5, it's probably going to be at least 40. I could see them pushing 60, but I think they'd get too much blowback for that. I could see it being 40, maybe 30. We've seen that Sony is willing to sell their games cheaper, right? Like, we've seen them experiment with $30, $40 price tags in the more recent years. So that's what tells me I don't think they'll sell it for 60. Demon Souls, that'll be 60. Also, where's my Demon Souls hype? Where's my Demon Souls crowd right now? I want to see people telling me, are you hyped for Demon Souls remake? I need to know if it's just me. MBG, Mass Effect trilogy for PS5? I think so. I think it's possible. I think so. I don't want to miss the super chat. David, you're saying, so I'm playing Infamous 2 on PS Now. Okay, let me know how it is. Yeah, dude. Play a bunch of games on PlayStation Now. Let me know next week how they are, man. I'm interested. We'll let David here. We'll let him let us know. He's taking the. I mean, although True Witty, I think you did say that you've been playing PS Now and you like it. What do I think about smart delivery of Xbox? Do you think Sony will implement cross-buy on PS5? I think they might. I think they'll take some things from that. MBG, do you think Godfall will have Destiny 1 success? Not that big. I think it'll be good, though. You played IGI game on PC? I don't know what that means, man. Sorry. We need the Yakuza games bundled for $150. Are you interested in the Uncharted movie? Vaguely interested, yeah. Like, I'll definitely check it out. Do you think the PS5 event, that Days Gone sequel, will be announced? No, I think it's too soon. Much too soon. Do I think a new Prince of Persia game will be announced? I think we could see that, yeah. Any GTA 6 news? As of right now, no. MBG, do you have trouble explaining to followers how powerful the PS5 will be? I don't think I have trouble with it. I think some people have trouble understanding it, but most of my followers seem to be understanding of how capable it is. Elden Ring. Yeah, can't wait for Elden Ring. Knack 3 confirmed. I don't think so. Demon Souls is the best Souls, kinda. Yeah. You're saying Godfall looks like crap? I don't think so. I think Godfall has a lot of potential. I think it does. I think it looks pretty good. Any idea about the PS5 event date? Stay tuned. Stay tuned over the next week, and you might have your answer. Have I heard about the possible remake of Red Dead Redemption 1? Yeah, I'm assuming you missed it. We did talk about that. X, yes, Y, no. It's not happening. It's not happening. It's been confirmed by a well-known Rockstar insider that it's not happening. It's not real, so don't get your hypes up for that. Where's the motorcycle gang? Did they pass by today? Yeah, multiple times. You missed that. All right, guys, we'll do like 2 more minutes here. Thank you for that, Magnavolt. Really appreciate that. And we also have Spooky Z here saying, I put so much time into Demon Souls. I'm curious to see what they do with it. No doubt I'll play through it again, but I've played it front to back. Yeah, I could see how maybe like if you're somebody in your position, it's probably less exciting for sure compared to somebody like me. Like I've never played it but always wanted to. And I'm a huge Dark Souls and From Software fan. Very excited for that, man. Very excited for that. Also, I hope they have full-blown multiplayer as well. I think that Demon Souls did have multiplayer, right? Do you think The Last of Us 2 is a tough game? I think in every sense of the word, if you're playing it on Grounded or Survivor, it's probably yes. In every sense of the word, it's probably a tough game. Do you think the Batman game will be announced at this PS5 event? We can only hope so, right? I think so. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. What PS4 exclusives do you think will be showed at the PlayStation event? I would answer that, buddy, but we're actually going to have a dedicated video to that once we get the new date, so don't worry. True Witty, you're saying MBG, I'm hyped for Demon Souls, but remember Sony sold Ratchet & Clank for $40. Yeah, good point. Good point, True Witty. See, I told you. And I know that other game that was remade, the PS1 game, I'm forgetting the name of it, but that came out in 2019. That was like $30. I think it was like $30, maybe $40 for the special edition. If Bloodborne Remastered is real, it's not going to be $60. I wouldn't worry about that. Magnavolt, you're saying, you're like, I'm going to read this as if you're screaming, but you're like, man, I would love to see Metal Gear Solid 1 remade. Absolutely. I 100% agree, buddy. Ep.18, we all know the Silent Hills remake is actually a pachinko version. Don't even joke around with that, man. Could you imagine the devastation? I wouldn't be able to make a video for a week. That's how devastated I'd be, because every video I'd make, I would just be crying. I already saw what they did with Metal Gear Solid 3. God, the pachinko machine for that was devastating. But we also have Terrence Williams. You're saying I need Dante's Inferno 2 now. Yeah, it's kind of a deep cut at this point, right? A lot of people love that game. But we'll go just 2 more minutes here, guys, because this is becoming ridiculously long. What do I think about Quantum Error? I'm interested to see it, for sure. I think we're supposed to get gameplay very soon, so I'll definitely pay attention to it. Have I played Sekiro? I have not. I know. Shame on me. It's a sin. I have not played it yet. When are you going to play Witcher 3? I don't know. That's another game that people probably consider it's like blasphemy that I haven't played it yet. Code Veronica X needs a remake. Good Resident Evil game in my opinion. Yeah, I'd love to see that too. I never did play Code Veronica X. MBG, I lost it. Thoughts on The Last of Us 2 DLC? I don't think you're going to get DLC. I think you're going to get a standalone multiplayer, Edward. You're going to get a standalone multiplayer game. What do you think about Ghost of Tsushima becoming Game of the Year? I think it has the potential, but I don't know, man. Ghost of Tsushima has some... I think it looks like an amazing game, obviously, but it has some stiff competition, for sure. But it's possible. It's possible. MBG, would you consider voice acting? As of right now, no, but maybe. I heard people growing up told me I should be an actor. I don't know why. I was really young now, so I don't really think much of it, but I did a couple plays. Apparently they thought I stood out and I should have done acting, but I'm just I don't know. I could never see myself pursuing a career in acting. It just seems too stressful. I don't know. MBG, there's a leak about the PS5 reveal event June 24th. Is this real? I'm going to say no, only because, it might be, but it just sounds too far away to me. Maybe not. Maybe not, though. I don't know, man. I don't know what to think. Spooky Z, you're saying, yes, Demon Souls had multiplayer from launch. They killed it off a while back. Yeah, maybe that's why they killed it off, because they're like, we got a remake coming, So hopefully we see that, too, man. Hopefully we see that, too. MH, you're saying, see you all next time. Stay healthy. Yeah. 100% agree, MH. I think this is a good point to end it. Thank you guys so much. My voice is really starting to go, and I am starving at this point. So, Mr. Hamster, you're saying, didn't you say you look like Keanu Reeves? A little bit. A little bit. So, I mean, my family's told me growing up that they think I look a lot like Keanu Reeves, like I have the same, like, facial features and whatnot. I guess maybe, I don't know, I think, like, I don't have the same, like, chin or jawline or anything, but yeah, I've been told that. So I don't know. It is what it is. You know, I like Keanu Reeves though. I think he's a great actor. I'd love to meet Keanu Reeves one day. Probably never gonna happen, but guys, my goal in life at this point, and for those of you who are still here listening, I can tell are very dedicated. My goal is my dream for this channel is if I could get Keanu Reeves on my podcast, then it's complete. My life's goal is complete at that point. So don't know if it's ever gonna happen. I can only hope, but. Anyway, that is going to do it for this podcast, guys. This is episode 18. That's a lot of episodes, actually. I'm surprised we've come this far. So thank you guys so much for taking time to hang out with me. I know it was a long show, and you guys made it such a great show, honestly. Your support has been absolutely incredible. We actually have over 1,100 likes, and there's still over 1,000 people here chilling with me. So thank you to the new members. Thank you to the members that have continued to support me. Thank you to all the super chats. Thank you for any interaction whatsoever. I'm going to ask on your way out, make sure you leave it a like. Again, the support has been absolutely incredible. So everybody stay safe out there. I know that it's really rough times right now, and so I hope that you're saying, "Gee, start lower first." I mean, gee, yeah, I know. Maybe hoping for Keanu Reeves to come on the podcast is me getting way ahead of myself. But hey, it's a dream, right? Man can dream. But crazy things going on in the world right now. Stay safe. Take care of one another. Try to do the right thing at all times, no matter how hard it may be. And I can only hope that good things come your way. So that does it, guys. I will catch you later. Until next time. Take care.